what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Back for another episode of Woke Autopsy. I decided to take a little bit of a break last week. Well, also, I mean, that may have been also voluntary and involuntary. Hey, how's it going, Vic? Good to see you again this week for another episode. How you doing, man?
I am doing good, brother. I'm feeling really good. I'm excited about today's guest. Yeah, bring it on, as they say.
Okay. Guys, brace your seats. We're ready for something that doesn't get talked about. Matter of fact, it's damn near brushed under the rug. It's an issue that's near and dear to me and affects all men. No, we're not talking about prostate cancer or any other bullshit like that. Let's get into it. Welcome to another no holds barred episode of Woke Autopsy, the podcast where we dissect cultural sacred cows, challenge comfortable narratives, and perform the post-mortem on ideas that are harming society. I'm your host, Marte Reyes, alongside my illustrious co-host, Cool Vic. And today we're cutting into a disturbing trend that's been making headlines with alarming frequency: the apparent rise of cases of female teachers engaging in sexual relationships with their underage students. Yes, you heard it. We're seeing these reports of these incidents across the country: arrests, scandals, pregnancies, and shattered lives. Yes, married women too. Crazy, right? Yet the conversation around them often feels muted, excused, or outright romanticized compared to similar cases involving male perpetrators. On this episode, we'll examine why this pattern seems to be increasing, what underlying cultural, psychological, or societal values or factors may be driving it, and crucially, why female teachers in these situations frequently receive significantly lighter sentences, lighter treatment, and easygoing presentation than their male counterparts for the same crimes.
Yes, indeed. We'll also ask the tough questions about why the issue appears to be swept under the rug societally. Is it lingering stereotypes about women as nurturers rather than predators? The boys will be boys, or he got lucky mindset that dismisses harm to male victims? Or something deeper in how modern culture handles gender, power, accountability, and victimhood. To help us unpack this with sharp insight and unfiltered perspective, we're joined by a special guest, a longtime voice in men's awareness and the broader conversation about intersexual dynamics. He spent years highlighting how societal narratives often overlook or downplay the realities men and boys face, bringing data-driven clarity to issues of masculinity, relationships, and double standards that many would rather ignore. His contributions have sparked crucial discussions in those spaces, and we're grateful to have his take on why this particular epidemic gets minimized while others dominate the headlines.
So, hey guys, stick around as we autopsy this whole woke blind spot, because protecting kids shouldn't depend on the gender or the teacher. So we're also talking about protecting men, right? Some of these boys become men, and what happens is this pervades society. The real accountability means treating every case with the same seriousness. Let's dig in. What do you really think is behind the leniency and the silence, Vic? I guess we're going to find out. Drop your comments in the comments and thoughts. Let's get into it. Our guest doesn't need any kind of introduction. The guy's a damn near celebrity. As you know, we bring them here all the time. Let me go ahead and do an introduction real quick before I roll him out. Welcome our special guest, Rollo Tomasi, ladies and gentlemen.
I feel like I should do my best Alex Jones imitation.
How's it going, Rollo? Long time since we last talked.
Good. I love that intro. Thank you very much. I don't think I've ever had anything done for me like that before.
Well, I mean, I do this for all my guests, especially if they're going to show up. They're probably based. Most of our guests are based, right, Vic?
Sure.
Oh, yeah, definitely. There hasn't been one unbased guest yet. So, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, you might be the one that actually breaks the mold and actually uncovers a lot of grime in regards to this issue that we're going to address. It's crazy. I've been hearing about this, and on social media, it's almost on Twitter. I see a new report every day or every other day. It's crazy, Rollo.
Mm-hmm. So I took it upon myself to start tracking these incidents back in 2024. I probably could have done it earlier. I remember when I was doing the original show with Pat Campbell, when Pat Campbell was still alive, as far back as like 2018, 2019, we started talking about this on his terrestrial radio show. And so we noticed this sort of like uptick in these incidences of teachers essentially statutory graping their students, right? And that's you have to put it into those contexts. In fact, every time I make a note of one of these, that's the first thing anybody wants to say is how come they won't use the term rapist, since we can't say it on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Because that's essentially what's happening. It is statutory, forced copulation, let's just say, because the kid is usually under the age of consent. So he's whatever that state is, whatever we're talking about. And so like clarifying those terms is I've been trying to be as honest and upfront about that every time I record one of these, but I started doing it back in the beginning of 2024 because I started seeing more of this uptick, but I did it for a different reason though, because it was about that time that it was like the incel panic at that time. Right. And I personally was on a list amongst others with Fresh and Fit and Aaron Clarity and Rich Cooper for this NGO that was called Diverting Hate, that was taking money from, well, technically taxpayers, right? It was DHS, Homeland Security dollars funneled through the McCain Foundation through ASU, Arizona State University. And then that's where the NGO is. And so you have all these NGOs they basically have to, it's make work, right? They have to like convince you that they're what they're doing is making a social impact or something. So please keep giving us money to the tune of about $800,000, like almost $1 million, right? They just 200,000 shy of $1 million. And it was meant to sort of, I shouldn't say, it was fueled, let's say, by this fear of incels becoming the next Elliot Rodger. And that's the only name they can really remember, right? Because that was like back in 2024 or 2014. And that was the Santa Barbara incident where that one kid and basically he actually killed more men than he killed. He killed one woman and like two guys, basically is what it was. But he had this manifesto and he was part of an online forum. And then, I think probably between say like 2010 and like where we are right now, I think I can probably count on the fingers of one hand how many violent quote unquote incel incidents there have been in the United States. But yet we're still, guys like me or guys like Mike Sartain or people who have the best intentions. We get thrown on terrorist watch lists because they think that we are radicalizing some sort of homegrown domestic terrorist group that's called those incels. Well, it turns out that the incels are lazy. Like the incels tell it, they don't care. You can't radicalize an incel any more than he already is. But so that they made incels the boogeyman to the point where they're like, taking taxpayer dollars to do these studies and, in the UK and in the United States as well. And I thought about it for a minute and I go, there have been, because I just tried, I think it was like January or February of 2024. And I go, there have been more incidences of female teacher student sexual assault cases in this month alone than there have been for the last 10 or 12 years. I mean, probably more than that. of violent incels. And I said, and how come nobody's shining a light on this? How come nobody's talking about this? So I took it upon myself to, anytime I saw it on Twitter, or I saw somebody on Instagram would DM me or whatever, I saw it in the news, if I happen to be online, if I found an incident of let's just say teacher student essay, female teacher student essay, I recorded it. And so I make one tweet about it. I put it in a bookmark and I just leave it alone. Right. And it's okay. I've been doing this for this. This is the third year. I'm going on 3 years now. Right. Wow. So in 2024, I logged 79 incidents, like separate incidents. Like they're not connections. They're not just follow-ups. These are like actual new incidences. So there are 79 incidences of a female teacher student essay in the year of 2024. Now 2025 rolls around and we got all the way up to like almost New Year's Eve, right? 91 separate incidences of essay. Wow. And now we are in 2026 and we are at thus far we're at 19 separate incidences in 2026. And so every time, like every once in a while, I make a note of this, but every once in a while I'll take a jab at like our lovely Evo Psych red pill haters who seem to want to be the gatekeepers of evolutionary psychology. And they are happy to point fingers at what they think are incels or the manosphere or whatever their new boogeyman is. And I'm like, well, why the hell is it that you're not looking at this epidemic of female teachers statutorily sexually assaulting their below the age of consent young men? There are far more instances. We need you to get taxpayer dollars to go and study why the hell this is happening.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
What an evolutionary history, what, in our ancestral past would, and by the way, these women all follow a very similar pattern. If you were a criminal profiler, this would be the easiest profile you could possibly do, right? Because most of them are between the ages of, they're usually in their 20s. They're usually new teachers. They're not all of them, but they're usually new teachers. They're usually very attractive too. They're not, and there's some fatties too. There's some ugly ones, but for the most part, they're like, they're mostly white. They're usually anywhere between like middle school and high school. And some of them take it upon themselves to groom these boys from even 10 years old on up. Now, some of those incidences might be like a guy who's like 17, and guys will like throw that at me and they'll be like, well, he was 17. He probably enjoyed it, man. But I'm like, that doesn't matter. It does not matter whether the boy was DTF. It does not matter.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
The law says, I'm talking about the law. This is the law. This is what we've established. And if it was a girl and a guy teacher, you guys would be throwing like we would have a presidential inquiry. We would have a senatorial, inquisition about this epidemic of male teachers, assaulting their female students. But that's not how this is going.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, though, is I want to say this, though, is that whenever you have this, I always look at the inverse. If the shoe was on the other foot, how would this then be treated? I'd like to roll out some special cases real quick. I'm going to present a video. Of course, this can be like an emotional argument. The feminists are going to say, oh, whatever, this and that. But this is actually taken apart from this year. And this is documentation I'm going to prove so that the audience, I don't have to buy in the audience for them to believe this is happening, because I have seen Rollo on his Twitter. Matter of fact, this leads to the next question before I roll out the video. Rollo, you've been publicly tracking these cases, which leads to this, dozens per year, like your female teacher student rapist, number 13 for 2020.
Uh-oh.
He bug out. He pulled out. Oh, there he goes. See? Wait.
They're trying to get to you, Marte.
We got you, Marte. They got you.
They got you. Coming after you.
I think he's trying to load the video. That's why he's switching over to the videos. Like, oops, I shouldn't have clicked on that one. I know how StreamYard works.
Yeah, no, exactly. It happens. It happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unmute
yourself.
Hear you. You're muted.
We can't hear you. Can't hear you.
Can't hear you, brother, man.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I think I went down to the less than HD version of my camera, but I can deal with that. I don't really care. It's about the content of what I'm about to say. So, anyways, Rollo, you've been publicly tracking these, right? Mm-hmm. Why do you think that academia and mainstream researchers refuse to examine this as a pattern while they obsessed over far rarer issues like incels?
Mm-hmm. Why do I think they've done that? Is because, well, incels are an easy target. All right. You have to remember, like, well, okay, there's two reasons. Okay. One's money. Okay. If there is no boogeyman, nobody gets paid. Right. Well, incels are a soft target. They're easy to demonize. It's easy to make them the enemy. That's why, like right now, Andrew Tate, if you bring up the name Andrew Tate, it's like you might as well say the devil in the UK right now, because Andrew Tate is Osama bin Laden in the UK. He literally is. Yeah. I mean, you will hear his name mentioned on Parliament floor when they're trying to, when they're allotting 20 million British pounds to the school system, to the education system, to re-educate or educate whatever boys so that they won't be, quote unquote, Andrew Tate. That's literally what they say, right? Yeah. And so that's the boogeyman, and I can make 20 million British pounds off of that. Well, maybe I can get my doctorate for this study on incels if I pass it off to the right NGO or the right the Center for Combating Extremism or something like that in the UK. We can do that, and it doesn't matter whether what the findings are. All we have to say is we did a study, and they can take that and run with it and create Adolescence or the Inside the Manosphere with Louis Theroux. You'll notice it's always like these British shows that are doing these, right? But there's one name that they don't know anybody else. The Manosphere thing, Louis Theroux, he wanted to get Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate didn't want to do it. He stiffed him, and probably wisely so. But they wanted to do that. And there's two names that Kamala Harris brought up in her latest book about like why she lost the election. Yep. Myron Gaines and Andrew Tate. Those were exactly the two. So those are the boogeymen. And so if you can make a lot of money off of the boogeyman. So the boogeyman is those incels. Those incels might want to hurt women. They might turn into that fictionalized character of the 13-year-old white boy that stabbed some, his classmates, his pretty little girl. We never see a picture of the girl, by the way. You never see the girl in that show ever, and that's by design. And they never. It's basically this. It's a moral panic, is what it is, but it's a very profitable one. So I've likened, Andrew Tate to Osama bin Laden. They don't want to capture Osama bin Laden. They want him to stay out there, because if he's out there, then other people get paid. And so that's why it preoccupies all of these researchers it's far more profitable for them to go and do a study about incels or whatever it is. The manosphere, the red pill, this, that, whatever. It doesn't matter. Like they want it to be as unflattering as possible, but it doesn't make any difference, because the money's going to come in for the NGO, and the money, like the NGO has to prove that it's doing something. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Imran Ahmed. He was the guy that I was on Dr. Phil with. He sat across from me. They're literally kicking that guy out of the United States right now, because the guy was he was a scammer from the UK pulling the same NGO bullshit here in the US, and they basically wanted to deport the guy. Hopefully they have. I don't know. I didn't follow up on that story, but yeah. Seriously, I mean, the same shit. So that's reason number one. Reason number two is there's a phenomenon. It's called the women are wonderful phenomenon. And it is, or the, it's actually a well-studied psychosocial, like sociological effect. I forget the name of the researcher who did this, but it's back in 1994. If you look it up, just like Wikipedia, it's called the "Women Are Wonderful" effect, is what it is, and it's why we have more lenient sentences for women. It's why we think that things that are created by women are more reliable. It's why we think that when women talk about certain things, that it's more credible. Anything that is like team woman, anything that is female is always above reproach, right? And so that's like, there's not going to be any like big name evil site guy or anybody who's doing like research who would be happy to do something about incels because that's easy. Like that's easy money, right?
Yeah.
But it would never do a real hard, because first of all, how do they get funding for that? That's another thing. It's like, how do we look into why all these pretty teachers who are married are banging these guys, and what is it that's motivating them? How do we stop this? And how do we implement like, controls in this? They won't do that because women are wonderful. That's a man part, like abuse and sexual assault and harassment and grooming. That sounds like something like guys would do. But no, I have logged 79 individual instances in 2024 and 91 in 2025. And now we're at 19 in 2026 right now and counting. And it's like, and every time, well, not every time, but most of the times I'll attach some little, poke them in the eye kind of thing where it's like, and still no word from so-and-so or the ivory tower of these
NGOs.
And there's no Netflix documentary about this. There's no Louis Theroux looking into this, like this epidemic and that's been going on for at least the last 3 or 4 years right now. No one will touch this. In fact, I don't think anybody would touch it even in the red pill right now. I'm the only one who's been, as far as I know, up until you guys start doing this show. I'm the only one that's been doing dedicated shows like once a year. Like once the tally is up, I'll go, okay, well, the number 79, right? It's funny to be flippant about it, but the fact is like nobody wants to touch it, because if they do, it's an unflattering truth about women. And really what it comes down to is it's dual mating strategy. It's not mate switching hypothesis. It counters and it crushes so many sacred cows of Evo psych that they really so want it to be assortative mating. It's not assortative mating when Sally the school teacher is banging the jock from the football team. That doesn't jive with that feel. It doesn't taste good at the end of the fucking research, man. And so that's why they won't touch this. It's the women are wonderful effect, and people there's no funding, there's no will to do it. So like when I do it, I'm an asshole for doing it. And I'll mark my words on this podcast right now. Somebody will do it and they'll do something and they'll fuck it up and they'll go, how come you didn't get Rollo on? How come you didn't get him to talk about that?
Exactly.
It's like clockwork. That's why I didn't get invited on the Manosphere documentary, because I would have fucked up their narrative, and I would fuck up their narrative on this too.
This is why specifically I wanted you on, because I've seen your X post. I follow you on X. We follow each other, but I've seen your post and I was like, another one. He's doing the same thing I'm doing. He's tracking this, and they're in my saved folder on my phone too on Instagram. So I'll see another case pop up. I'm going to bring up a quick video. Rollo, you can tell me to stop it if you want during the video, if you want to make some commentary. It's only like a minute and a half, but trust me, it's loaded, chock full of BS that we're accepting from societal norms, I guess, apparently from PDF aisles that are women, of course. I'm going to play this for just a second.
Another teacher is arrested for an alleged sexual relationship with a student. It's just one of many cases we've covered in recent weeks, highlighting a disturbing pattern emerging across the nation.
Shocked this morning after a middle school teacher in Highlands Ranch is accused of having sex with one of her students and then stalking that victim.
Peoria police submitted one count of pandering against Haley Beck, accusing the teacher of having a sexual relationship with a student and paying him. According to police records, Beck explicitly writes about sex, drugs, and alcohol with the student and sent him money several times. In total, investigators calculated $630 worth of transactions, with one captioned, "This money exchange just felt like straight prostitution." The student referred to Beck as Sugar Mommy, who
$29. Geez, that's cheap.
So the student told her this felt like prostitution. Think about this. It should be the other way around. Normally we'll hear this normative from women saying this to guys. It's the guy telling the woman this in this picture.
Well, what's funny is like, did you catch that part where like this emerging trend? Like, this is an emerging.
It's been happening. Yes.
Yeah, it's been happening.
It's been happening for like at least 5 years. Actually, probably more than that, because the Pat Campbell days would have been like probably 8 years ago.
For sure.
shared feelings that she was being used for money.
Women hired to nurture and teach children, later accused of taking advantage of their positions and sexually assaulting the kids. What's driving them to molest kids that they should be protecting?
Tonight, shocking allegations against another teacher at a local school, a music teacher charged with having an inappropriate relationship with a student. And that teacher replaced another music teacher 2 years ago who also allegedly had a relationship with a student.
Look, a replacement came in to replace the previous
geez.
molester of students. So it's
They always show them these. They never show their mugshot. They always show them like teacher of the year. There's so many teachers of the year.
Yeah.
That like that's
yeah,
fun.
yeah.
And it's like it's always this perky little like Instagram shot. Like, hi guys, welcome.
Like
to
beauty pageant contestants,
Yeah.
they'll portray them in the media. But meanwhile, the guy looks like he's the worst guy you want to bump into in a dark alley. But the women, you'll never see this on their side. Crazy.
Yeah.
Formela's case
Exactly.
made national headlines for many reasons. First of all, she's very attractive, and she knows it. Police said that she told them.
Is she supposed to be unattractive?
I know, right? Wow, she's very attractive.
Admittedly, the news is pandering.
Because
I can
normally,
hear
I've noticed.
because normally you would expect this kind of behavior from ugly women.
No, exactly.
but also too, they would never, if it was a guy teacher, like if it was if it was Brad Pitt, they would never be like, hey, did you notice how attractive he is? Like they would never point that out. They'd be
Yeah,
like,
they would
oh,
never
he's
do
a
that.
creep. Yeah, but it's a woman. It's like she's attractive.
It's a lot of soft hand holding in the media. I don't know why women get such a light, soft-hearted approach when it comes to presenting them on the media, even though if the shoe was on the other foot, they'd be bastardized and drugged through the mud and, whatever, scarlet letters never get, put on women anymore. It's just a different society now in the direction we're moving.
Ways like they would even add that in there. It's like, well, first thing, she's attractive. Like,
Right.
Like, are they normally ugly? Are they hideous? Like,
It's
Yeah, I
funny
know,
how they
right?
obfuscate away from the case. Normally, they would never talk about how handsome the guy is, how rich he is, or anything like that. But they make a beeline to obfuscate away from the criminal case and talk about, well, she's beautiful,
Well, look at her.
What have been a guy, and the guy's like he looks like fucking like Henry Cavill. Well, first, he's a good-looking dude.
Yeah, exactly.
You would
They would
never hear
say
that
that.
shit.
Yeah,
Yeah, come
never
on.
say that.
People try to get her into trouble because she's good looking. Formela had been married for less than a year
Damn.
when she was arrested and charged with sexually abusing that male student. She has a good looking husband, a house in the suburbs, and a decent.
Look, again, good looking. It's like,
Why would they want it? Why would she ever want it? Gosh, it's so crazy.
Yeah, why would she ever want to cheat on him?
This is she must be damaged.
Yeah,
such
exactly.
crazy shit.
Someone must have hurt. Someone must have hurt her.
Job. So why would she potentially throw it all away to engage in sex with a teenage boy?
Christina, why did you tell a child that if he couldn't get you pregnant, you would get a sperm donor? Because it was him or nobody.
Two women teaching at the same Peoria high school are accused of sexual conduct with a student, and police say the victim in both cases is the same teenage boy, but no arrests have been made.
No arrests have been
No
made.
arrest.
No, you'd be shocked.
13. There you go.
You'd be shocked. So here we go. A school employee on the run after alleged essaying. See, even the news can't even say the words, because even they're they're tongue police.
Because they're beholden to the YouTube algorithm is why.
Yeah. So that teacher is currently on the run. They haven't found her yet. And it's like, she's on the run. We'll find her. There's no immediacy when it comes to this, and there's no urgency, and there's no hammer that comes down hard on women. Why is that, do you think, Rollo?
Well, first of all, you have to remember that let's just be honest, like the woke media is never going to use the term rapist for women. They won't. It'll be SA or it'll be like an inappropriate relation. It's like, no, that was statutory rape is what that was. Okay. That's what the law, what the law, what the law she broke, what they're going to slay, what the prison sentence is going to be based on. That's the law. That's what it's called. Right. But they won't say that because again, women are wonderful. We cannot possibly, because they're beholden to a gynocentric social order and they control the language. And it's a good education in, I say neuro-linguistic program. It's not really. It's there was I think it was George Orwell who said this. I think it was in 1984. It says if you can control if language controls thought, then or if thought controls language, then language can control thought. And that's exactly what this is. They don't want, and they're pretty, they're gorgeous. Look at her, look, they're hot. It's like it's like an 80s
lucky kid, you know.
Man, it's like one of these 80s teen movies, right? Look how hot that chick is. And that's the other side of this whole dilemma, is because like I expect this from the woke media. I expect these, but if I go and I say, okay, this is a female teacher, student, rapist number 19 for 2026, and I might add some snarky little thing at the end of it just to like poke the bear a little bit, which never gets poked, right? For the gatekeepers. And then usually, especially if the chick's like attractive, if she's a smoke show, then you'll get these guys in the comments. I mean, it is without fail. Nice. Yeah. Like it'll be like, oh man, all the chicks that I saw, my teachers were ugly. Oh man, yeah. That's not, or they will say, that's not great. I'm like, what do you mean? I go, well, obviously the kid enjoyed it. Look at her, right? She's beautiful, right? Obviously he enjoyed it. And it's like, it doesn't matter. He's a child. He is under the age of consent. Therefore, he can't possibly give consent. And the adult that should have known better, that knows that she is above the age of consent, should have been the one who, you're the adult, that's the minor. You are the one that are responsible for your actions with that minor, right? Like guys won't even they'll do hover hands in pictures because they don't want any, any bad press for, Keanu Reeves putting his like hover hands over the girls in his, his selfie shots and stuff like that. But the kid enjoyed, but the guy enjoyed it. That's okay, right? And I'm like, well, why is this? Like, I'm focusing on the law. Like, either we have a unitary law that applies universally for men and women, because I will tell you right now, if a male teacher sends what could be construed as an inappropriate text to a 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old girl, that guy's done. I've gotten into these debates with Dr. Richard Reeves, who is insisting that we need to get more men into teaching. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? They don't want to get into teaching. First of all, it's a low-paying job. It's a low-status job. It's a low appreciation job. But hot bitches don't want to fuck male teachers, so that's another thing. And the other thing is that you're never. And then, so think about this: you got to go through 4 years of college, right? To get whatever your degree is. Then you got to go to get your teaching credentials. So that's another 2 years or whatever. And maybe you got to go for a little bit more than that, depending on what the subject you're going to teach or what grade level you're going to teach. And God forbid you're like, I want to be a special ed teacher. I've known, like the singer in my old band, Livy, she was a special ed teacher, and I know what she had to go through and the amount of money she had to spend, like on student loans, to get that degree and get that certification. Now imagine you're a guy and you spend anywhere between 6 and 8 years to get your degrees, and you got a master's degree, you have to have a teaching credentials, and you got to be certified to go in and do the kind of teaching that you're going to do. And with one text that can be construed by some 14, 15-year-old girl who just simply doesn't like you or doesn't like the way you talk to her. Maybe he listened to Andrew Tate or something like that. All that money and all that student loans and all the effort that guy put in for the last 8 years so he could be that teacher, poof, gone. You start over, go start a podcast, go do something other than that. You basically wasted 8 years of your life. So yeah, it's a high risk job to get into, but hey, we need to get more of it. And so that kind of leads me into the other side of this is people want to know why there's so many female teachers that are doing this. Are there male teachers? I'm sure there are, but it's shocking how many female teachers that's an epidemic, right? And the reason for that is because it's simple law of averages. There's more female teachers than there are male teachers. It's gonna happen. Like when you look at the last stats I looked at in I think in public school, like from like kindergarten through really when you get to a graduate degree, 78-79% of your teachers are going to be female. And that's like, unless you're doing something in STEM, unless you're doing like engineering or mathematics or something like that, you go, but like from the time you're in kindergarten through the time you get out your high school diploma, your teachers are going to be overwhelmingly, almost 80% are going to be female. So when you look at how many women are in the education system, and even I think Helen Andrews was talking about this, how many women are in like psychology and in the medical field and are in law right now. And she was like, she was giving that talk. Everything. One of the things she says was education, right? Which you think about all of those fields where you put a lot of women into them, and you think how important those fields are to forming the next society, for forming the next generation, right? So is it any shock that I don't know, a 24-year-old to 34-year-old blonde chick from the Midwest who is unsatisfied with the beta schlub that she married, and now she's a school teacher and she's around guys that are like they're like their football player. Trust me, I don't think none of these chicks are getting with like ugly dude. They're not getting with the fat kid. They're getting with the kid from the water polo team or the football team or something. Those are the guys that they end up with, and even to the point where they bring in some of these cases other teachers to like watch out to run point for them, right? To watch out for them. Like
that happens
in class. Yeah. Right? And it's just, so like, imagine if it, again, we're flipping the script. Imagine if it had been men who were doing this. Like I said, there would be a senatorial inquisition into all of this stuff. And we would spend inordinate amounts of money, and yet no one is even, only us, like only me, only you guys, only only the red pill for sure are bringing this to light. And of course, the minute we do, what's wrong with you? Don't you know that men do it too? And like everybody thinks you're a misogynist for bringing this up. And I'm like, no, I'm not a misogynist. I'm pointing out the flaw in your system. You want to go and spend taxpayer dollars on discovering whether incels are going to be dangerous or not. And guess what? They're not. Right. For the past, 20, going on 15 years now, you can name like 2 or 3 people who were incel kind of shooters. Right. Okay. That's very bad. But I can name 19 in the month of freaking, from March or from April to the beginning of this year, women who have sexually assaulted their students. And no one's saying it. Local news might just give it a little bit of lip service because it's salacious, right? But it follows a pattern. It follows like the chicks are like 9 times out of 10 these girls are married, and the guy, and half the time the guys are married. They say I'm going to stay with her. I'm not going to divorce her. Like they want to stick with her anyways, which is probably why she wanted to get with the guy, the kid in the first place, right? And I think it shattered like it goes much deeper than just like what I initially started out with. Like I was just using it as a comparison between like incels and like, here's something that should be more important to you guys. Right.
I have a post real quick that I'd like to present real quick, Rollo.
And then you got to think about hybristophilia, and you got to think about all these other related issues that go along.
Hybristophilia. Yeah, that's so true. I think women are drawn to danger. There's hybristophilia. They're also drawn to like problematic situations that are risque. It's almost kind of like what would you say? Something that they get off on, like I might get caught, that type of thing. Women, for some reason, end up in these predicaments all the time. But I do want to kind of display this real quick because it shows the lopsided nature of the legal system here. I'm going to present this to you real quick. You guys see this is a 2026 post real quick. Man who was raped as a child forced to pay child support after rapist became pregnant and had a child. Nick Levis was 14 when he was raped by a 20-year-old woman. 6 years later, informed that he was obligated to pay child support, $15,000 in back child support and $380 a month. And this is the kid, right? He just found out one time he went to his job that his checks were being garnished. And you'll never see this case, right, the other way around, but for some reason the legal system is lopsided as well too. It boggles my mind, Rollo.
Yeah, well, like I said before, like people want to ask me, like, Rollo, why does this keep happening? And then I can say, well, it's the law of averages. There's more teachers than female teachers than are male teachers. It's also I can talk about like hypergamy. I can talk about dual mating strategy. You can there's so many things that you can sort of like apply to this epidemic, right? But the other thing is, like, I understand, like, if I'm getting, like, if women come at me and they want to criticize, well, Rollo, what about the men? What about these guys? Like, okay, fine. we're talking about women right now, but okay, I get it. But I think one of the reasons why it kind of slips under the radar, it's not as like shocking, I think, as most people would, as I would certainly think so if it was little girls and it was, adult male teachers, is because the dynamic of like guys going, well, I would do her, I would fuck that chick, no problem, he probably enjoyed it, so therefore it's not grape. And the fact of the matter is that's statutory great. That is the law that has been broken.
Yeah.
I don't care. It doesn't matter whether he enjoyed it or not. It doesn't matter whether he was damaged by it or not. It doesn't matter whether he got his bros in and had ran trains on these girls. It doesn't matter. It's the law. Was a law broken? Should that woman go to jail just for the exact same amount of time that a man would for the same crime? And so now you get into leniency for women, which is, again, the women are wonderful effect. So this is well studied, well documented research on women getting far more lenient sentencing for the same crimes that men would be sentenced for. Right? Guys go away for a lot. Like if you're like even a suspected PC, kitty toucher, you're dead in jail. If you're a guy, you're dead.
You're done. Yeah.
Not a female prison. You're like, hey, how was that guy, man? A 15-year-old guy. Well, it was fun. So there's a different vibe to it, right? And so the thing is, like, I have to fight guys, male critics, men. I think they're men, who come at me saying, well, we need to lower the age of consent then. I'm like, well, okay, go ahead and run that. So I'm like, okay, so if that's the case, then how do you feel about like gender reassignment surgeries then? Right? Because should there be an age limit for that? Because there really isn't one right now. Where would that be? And so I'm like, okay, so where should that age of consent be? Right. Well, usually it's like 18, right? That makes you an adult, right? Well, maybe in some states depending on the state, I've done the research on this. It depends on the state and it depends on the incident, right? So age of consent might be in Oklahoma, let's just say it's like 16, right? But that's between two minors. Like if the kid's 17 and a guy is 16, no harm, no foul, right? But if it's 18 and it's a 16-year-old, now you're in trouble, right? It just kind of depends on how the states view the age of consent and what the particular context that crime or no crime was committed in, right? And so when you take apart the legalities of it, and then you pair it up with the guys who are just like, well, I bet you enjoyed it. I bet he enjoyed it. I bet it was a good time. So if everybody had a good time, then no crime was committed. I'm like, right. That's not what the law says.
Yeah, not how it works.
And again, he probably did. I probably had a great time. But you know what? Still broke the law. Still go to jail. Still you did the same crime. I bet that if a male teacher and a 16-year-old girl teacher had a good time together and they both enjoyed it, that guy is still going to jail.
Yeah.
That guy's still going to prison and probably dying in prison for that. So that's my problem. But then it gets in again. Then now we have the conversation about should we lower the age of consent? Okay, well, what should that be? Okay, well, does a boy enjoy it at 14 or does he enjoy it at 15? Right, and it's like what's the
threshold? Where are we going to draw the line?
Okay, should we lower the age of consent for boys and adult women, and that's a whole separate standard of justice, or is it going to be one unitary standard of justice? And really, that's what it comes down to. There is it applies to a lot of different things, but there is a separate standard for justice for women in the United States. Simple as that.
Yes.
Whether
Such a big mess.
It doesn't have it might not have anything to do with these cases. It's like just in general, there's a separate standard of justice for women than there will be for men, and that's just how it's going to be.
Go ahead, Vic. You were going to say something.
Also, another thing too, there are people who want to lower the age of consent, like even for men or something. So, like, what are you trying? So, what if like the kids? Let's say we lower it to 15, right? Like for boys or something.
Sure.
And then the boy gets the woman pregnant. Then, well, that means he could be a father, and then he's on the hook for this baby at a younger age. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he is now exactly. But even at a younger age now we're expecting this kid. Well, he could consent to having sex, but essentially he's going to be consenting to being a father at a younger age.
Be a father. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so that's something that these people like think about.
I feel it's beholden. It's the onus is on me to also point out this is that when I recorded 79 and 2024 and 91, I was hoping we were going to break 100, but when we got to 91 in 2025, I had to also put out the caveat that those are the ones I'm aware of. That's and not saying like there might have been other cases that were publicized that I just didn't float into my feed, right? So I just simply don't know about them. But even the ones I do know about are all separate individual incidences. 79 in 2024, 91 in 2025. I have them all bookmarked on my Twitter, and the thing is, it's only important to me. I know he cares.
It's a shame. It's a shame. I feel like
it is a shame.
Nobody cares.
And here's the thing, though, Rolo. I have a question that I've been dying to ask you. We talked about this backstage, so I'm going to present this. So right now in the States, in the interim, where the laws, like there's some flux happening right now as far as like the punishments. Right now, I think it's Ron DeSantis and other states. They're saying, if you are a person that's perpetrating child sexuality, their space, whatever this is, right? The sexual predator of children or purveyor of minors, if you will. If you are one of these people, you can receive capital punishment, be put to death, firing squad, whatever this is. So Rolo, by that logic and that metric alone, if we're going to rationalize and even things out, do you think teachers should be put to death?
Well, so that would technically, it's funny you should say that because I remember when that came out. Was it DeSantis or was it Fishback? Because Fishback is pretty radical right now.
It was Florida for sure.
Yeah, whatever. Because it's what's funny to me is like these really like these formerly, longtime conservative politicians are now like trying to figure out how they can like appeal to like the Nick Fuentes crowd right now. And so that's how radical can I be? You should be lynched, right? That's what they're going to say. So let's just throw this out there. It's extreme rhetoric. So, but let's go with the sentiment though. Okay. So I remember when that came out and the first thing out of my mouth was this, and it's one of those out of body experiences I have now and then is, I typed in, I said, I think they said, we need to put all, pedos to the death penalty. I don't know, lethal injection, whatever. Okay. So you're saying like, if the person had sex with an underage under the age of consent, like where are you going to draw the line, right? So just under the age of consent and in the state of Florida, right? I tried to separate out how many individual cases I had in my bookmarks that were just like native to Florida. And so the first thing out of my mouth is because I'm a bastard. I'm just like, well, so we're going to put let's start with the teachers. Let's start with all the female teachers who are now in jail for, essentially statutory rape, right? Because and technically pedophilia. Right? That's what that is. Underage.
Yeah.
Got it? And now that's not like, in most there are a couple of extreme cases where it's under the age of 10 for some of these teachers, but by and large, it's usually teenage boys, like, between ages of 13 to 17 at least. Right. And it also involves a lot of grooming and everything else that goes along that. But still, we want to put groomers to the same knife as anybody else. And if it's a guy, they're happy to bring out the firing squad. But again, should those teachers be, well, if that's the law, then that's the law. If everybody in the state of Florida says, this is what we're going to do, if you do X and this is the law, this is the penalty, the penalty is death. Women will still do it and they'll still get away with it too, because it'll be like, I'm too pretty to be put to death. I'm too, I've damaged. I had a rough childhood. My husband abused me. Like, okay.
Try to appeal.
We'll kill all these dudes over here, but you get because there's a separate standard of justice. Do I think it would ever happen? No. But in principle, and it's the sentiment of like rules is written. Yeah. I get rules attended. I get it. Yeah, absolutely. I totally 100% understand that. And I would say, yeah, sure. Why not? The same thing is like, I've gotten into those conversations with, like when everybody wants to whenever I get into a conversation about abortion with like conservatives, they're always, I have two different conversations with them. Like abortion with conservatives is a much different conversation than with liberals. Right.
Yeah.
Like because I comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable, right? I punch both ways. So when somebody talks to me about like on the liberal side, when they say like, well, we should keep abortion safe and legal, and of course it's killing children, right? I said, well, what is the actual function of abortion? What problem does abortion solve for women? Okay. Well, it's a fail safe for bad reproductive choices. So,
yeah, that's true.
That will never come out of the mouth.
Made a mistake.
It will never come out of the mouth of them. Like functionally, let's just be honest, like eugenically, evolutionarily, reproductively, that's the purpose. It's a fail safe for women's bad reproductive choices. Well, what about grape? Accounts for like 1%, fraction of 1%.
Less than that, yeah.
98.9% of abortions are elective. Guess what?
Yep.
And the purpose is to kill the party, man. She just doesn't want it. She doesn't want the end, man. Then if I talk to conservatives, they'll say abortion is murder. I'm like, okay.
Well,
I agree.
I do have a question.
And so I'm saying, okay, so the women who have had or will have in the future, however you want to slice it up, they should be put to death for murder one. Do you agree with that? And that will like then, wait a minute, guys should
because that would be consistent across the board. The logic would be consistent.
Yeah. That's post facto rationalization because it's already there. Like whether or not the guy banged her or not, she's the one who decides if the child lives or dies, not the abortion doctor, not the baby daddy.
Insane.
Like you can make the case that the abortion doctor is the hitman. I get it. But she's the one who put out the hit.
Yeah,
okay, so she is a murder one, premeditated malice and forethought of murder one. Do you support putting women in the electric chair for doing that? And Matt Walsh will never touch that. So he will never.
No, he wouldn't. He would jump in front of the bullet. That's what he would do. I have a question, Rollo. In the rational male, you talk about women's lack of accountability, which leads to the next question I want to ask. In the sexual marketplace, do these teacher cases represent the logical endpoint of believe all women and Me Too logic flipped on its head, where women now weaponize institutional power for their own sexual ends?
That's a good question. I think it's a little, it's putting too much, you're thinking about it too much, I think. Well, first of all, let's look at, you could just look at the law of averages. We already talked about that. There are more female teachers than there are male teachers. There is going to be a higher incidence of female, male student, essay. That's just going to happen because the pool is deeper for women. Okay. Then it's like, well, people have asked me this before, do they think that they can get away with it? The answer is yes, they do. They think that they can get away with it. And they think that the boy is enjoying it so much that it's never going to be an issue. And they don't factor in the parents that might be actually involved in their son's lives. Right.
Yeah.
They don't, or if it turns into sort of like this fatal attraction kind of thing, which some of these do, where the woman is just like still like sending him like dozens and dozens of texts and emails. And I love you. Oh, can't wait. I'm going to divorce my husband. I can't wait to be with you. And that's the groomers mostly. Yeah. But is it a power dynamic? I don't think it's so much a power dynamic as it is just an opportunity. Like it's just an opportunity. When I talk about, I can remember when, another reason why I started tracking these things. There for the longest time, from like 2022-ish to 2024-ish, almost into 2025, there's a big push for what Dr. David Buss used to call mate switching hypothesis. Why women cheat, right? Why do women cheat? Yeah. Well, first of all, it's not a mating strategy because you already have to be mated for there to be a mate switching hypothesis. So you throw that shit out the window. Yeah. And I've always said it's dual mating strategy, which is a much more robust, much more reliable predictive framework than anything else. But he's got to be, again, women are wonderful. I want to be a podcaster. I want to be an influencer. I want the ladies to like me. I gotta dish it to the guys so that so women will love me. By the way, David Buss during that time, 2020-ish, that's when he ran his failed attempt at a dating service, and never really saw the light of day. But again, the reason why he's saying this kind of stuff, he's got to come up with something that is more flattering to women than dual mating strategy, which is alpha fucks and beta bucks, right? Women want to fuck Chad and they want to marry cat. They want cads and dads, right? They want a nice beta guy to settle down with. And that's exactly what's going on with the teachers. They're with these guys who are with them. They're ride or die guys, man. And they still want to fuck the guy who's like the 15-year-old. And so it throws this whole mate switching hypothesis out the window, because what the mate switching hypothesis professes anyways is that women only cheat up in upward mobility, right? They want a guy who has more money, who's got more money, he's got more status, he's got more, it's up the sort of the status hierarchy thing. I'm like, why is it that these teachers who are clearly well above the 14, 15, 16-year-old students, why are they banging those students then? Like, what is there? Are they're cheating on their clearly they're cheating on their husbands? Why would they do that? Or do they think that the 15-year-old is going to actually be a better bet in the future and make more money? He's going to be a NASCAR driver or something like that when he gets to be 18. Crazy. What the fuck do you think? And it's like, again, one of the reasons why we don't talk about mate switching hypothesis anymore is because that was one factor that crushed that theory. The other one is that, like, when Steve Harvey's wife cheats on him, his second wife cheats on him with the personal chef and the bodyguard, who are in no way status equals to Steve Harvey. Throw that one right out the window.
That too. Yeah.
The thing about the teachers, though, is that it crushed that theory, or helped anyways, to put a nail in the coffin of that theory. And that's another reason why you won't see any upstanding, I don't know, A-list Evo Psych influencers will ever touch that, because it crushes too many of their sacred cows. And one of those also is assortative mating, right? Now it's because now mate switching hypothesis, everybody sweeps that under the carpet. What's that? Rolla wrote something about that sometime. Right? I don't know about those red pill guys, right? And then so now it's assortative mating, and what that implies is that like gets with like. So if you're Steve, or if you're this guy, you're 6 and she's a 6, then 6s get with 6s and 7s get with 7s, does 8s get with 8s, and it's this socioeconomic, parity, which is a joke. And I laugh really hard, because usually when they're writing something about assortative mating, they like to use for their example is like Lauren Sanchez and Jeff Bezos. Like,
oh wow!
Go look into the background of Lauren Sanchez and change that. Fire your Twitter team. And just cancel your Twitter account because you screwed up. Okay, but like the theory doesn't fly. It doesn't fly because of teachers wanting to get with their 15-year-old students. And so that's that part. And then the other part of this is that doesn't get talked about a lot is, how do women get out of this? What is the get out of jail free card for women out of this? So what usually they'll say is, those are damaged women. They're crazy.
Yeah.
Real women would never do that. It's the same thing with hybristophilia. Like when a prison guard goes and bangs the hot, serial murderer in the penitentiary, right? And she wants to have his babies to the point where she's going to try to break him out. Like, they have to, like, in certain prisons, they have to like separate the female. I don't know, how do you get female guards in prison in the first place? But you get female guards, they have to separate them from the male population because it happens too often.
Yeah, all the time.
Hybristophilia, like, people call me on this, but I keep saying it's not all women are hybristophiles, but only women are hybristophiles. So, and it's not just, women love what Luigi, or the kid that shot the guy from
Luigi Mangione.
Oh, because he was good looking. Right. Or you can make a case for Richard Ramirez. You can make a case for Jeffrey Dahmer. Ted Bundy. Hell, they had Zac Efron play, like, was it Jeffrey Dahmer or one of those guys? And like, come on.
I think it was Ted Bundy. Yeah.
Damn, the tropes just keep coming.
But then you look at like somebody like James Holmes, who was the Aspen, Colorado theater shooter, who, if you look at pictures of him, that dude's crazy. If you look at what's his name? Nicholas Cruz from the mass shooting in Florida, that dude's crazy. Or the guy who was the Boston Marathon bomber, the kid bomber. It's crazy, right? It's not about looks. It's about the fact that the guy is an incarcerated, dangerous
dangerous.
Rapist, criminal, murderer, dude, thug, warlord, arms trader, drug dealer, like the list goes on and on. Women like bad boys, and the more extreme, the more they love them, right? And when you try to say, well, let's look into this, Rob Henderson, let's look into this, Steve Stewart Williams, let's look into this, Gad Saad, let's look into this. I'm trying to name names, Steve Stewart Williams, let's look into this. No, we'd rather talk about incels. We'd rather let's go. Let's punch the incels in the face a little bit more.
It's never gets talked about. So
you have to remember, well, hypergamy is easy, but there's also an element of hybristophilia to this as well, because that overturns this stupid notion of assortative mating right now. It's not who you get with. It's not who you settle on. And using marriage as a metric for the success of your mating theory is ludicrous. It's not who you marry, clearly, because these women are married. It's not who you marry. It's who you want to fuck. That's the mating strategy right there. In fact, if anything, this proves a dual mating strategy. They want alpha seed. They want the alpha genetic sexual short-term benefits from having sex with a guy, with a 15-year-old guy, having his babies, and convincing the beta that they married that it's his kid.
Beta bucks.
That's am I the only one who see I feel like a John Travolta like Pulp Fiction.
You've noted, and I've seen this, so I've looked at your Twitter sometimes. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you've noted that there were 79 such convictions in 2024, and then here's the thing, Vic. 91 in 2025, according to what I've seen with Rollo, yet the narrative stays silent somehow. Rollo, I got to ask you this. How does this selective outrage serve the larger social order, especially when compared to how quickly male misbehavior gets amplified?
Well, again, it goes back to the separate standards of justice, and it goes back to the Women Are Wonderful effect, essentially, right? And then just now scale that up. That's all you're doing is upscaling all of that. So it's like it's numbers, but it's like you're scaling it from the personal level, from the independent individual level up to the societal level, up to the national level. After that point, like how does that scale? What's always going to? I mean, it's because we have a gynocentric social. Well, we have I always say, the gynocentric social order, right? How do women organize societies, right? Well, there's also what's the global narrative that goes along with it? What's the gynocentric global narrative on top of everything else? And that's why I keep saying there's always going to be some out. There's always some caveat. Like if you go and you say, if a man has a problem, or for God's sake, if I say something that is in any way, let's say observational about women's nature, like, well, women are like this. If I say that and I'm a man and I have a dick swinging between my legs,
crucified,
that means that I'm complaining. I'm making an observation, but if a man makes an observation and verbalizes it in the most measured, most monotone, most neutral way you can possibly do it, it always sounds like complaining. It's not a complaint. It is an observation. Plan accordingly. How about that? But you can't have those conversations, because the minute that a man says something that an observational, here's what I see. I'm seeing this going on. The minute I say, this is what I see in women's nature, I might even be wrong. I just want to have a conversation about it. It doesn't matter, because a man said it. It sounds like it's complaining, whining, whatever, and it's not the first people who will criticize me of complaining won't be women. It'll be guys. It'll be men saying this. Yeah. Because they're trying to find there, because they want an in. Any girl in earshot to hear them like say, well, what about the guys, right? And you'll notice that whenever I bring up something that is sort of, especially if it's an unflattering truth about women, if I say women are X, there'll always be somebody who will say, well, but what about guys? Guys are like this too. Or they'll try to flip the script, right? Or they'll say, well, men do it too, but men are worse. And here's how. Like, what about domestic partner violence, right? What about I'm like,
what about it?
The thing is, like, can we, and I know this is impossible, but can we please just have a conversation about female teachers, male students, and well, I mean, it can't be consensual sex, right? So, and statutory rape. Can we just talk about that demographic of people? These three people, and this is what happened, right? Without bringing in men, society of men, patriarchy, this. No, the reason why we can't have that conversation is because if something looks like there's an imbalance to the female narrative, you have to bring up something unflattering about men. It has to be balanced with something about men. Now, the same is not true for men. So if I can, and I've done this before, if I say, men tend to be a little less emotionally tied because our brains are not wired for emotion, right? We have different hardware than women. If I say something like that, women will go, yeah. And I'll say, well, women are more attuned to communication, right? Which they are. I mean, they could get women. Here's biologically, this is 100% factual. Women have a better sense of smell than men. If I say that,
that's true.
I say that, nobody goes, well, yeah, well, what about men? Men kind of some men have good senses of smell. No one pipes up that. No one drops that in there just to bounce the yin with the fucking yang. Right. Nobody does that. And the reason why they don't say that is because there's no men are wonderful effect at all. That's why it always has to be, whenever you say something, it could be flattering or it could be unflattering about female nature. There's always this it's almost like on the species level that guys have to either defend milady's honor or they have to balance the yin with the yang, right? They have to say, well, but what about men? Like, that's not the conversation. The conversation, we're talking about women. Keep men out of this. But you can't really, and then the fact that you just want to talk about that one thing or focus on that, on teachers and female teachers and male students, and just the fact that you want to focus on that, and it's really meant to deflect and to distract is what it's meant to do. And again, so that's an easy out, and that's on a societal scale, a national scale. The other one is like the damaged women thing. The women you're crazy. No normal. It's really basically no true Scotsman like logical fallacy. What it is.
Yeah,
no real woman would ever do something like that. I've got 79 from 2024 and I've got 91. Are they all damaged? Did they all have daddy issues?
Insane.
Are they all like former strippers that became teachers? Do you tell me, man?
Yeah.
There's a lot of them. And it's like, people say, well, it's just correlation. Correlation's not causation. I go, yeah, I get that, but it's a hell of a fucking correlation.
But Rollo, we talked about the excuses for women that they paint all the time. For the boys involved, often dismissed as like lucky, because I'll read the comments all the time. And we scroll down the comments, oh, I wish my teacher was like that. And we'll hear this all the time and then see this, or they're not real victims. Like we've talked about this. How do you see this shaping their long-term view of women's consent, trust, and relationships? And also a side note too, does it accelerate the red pill awakening, or does it just create broken, cynical men?
A little of both, I think. There's always going to be guys. Well, so it's like there's a lot of like topics or concepts that I would call red pill concepts and topics that like guys are like either too fucking happy or too fucking pissed off about. It's like,
there's no gray area.
Like the wall. The wall is one of them. Like they say, oh, the wall is undefeated. Like there's guys will be like, yeah, she got hers. Look how ugly she is now that she's 60, right? Like there's that contingent of guys, and then there's the guys that go, yeah, well, she's 40 and she might not look that, or she's ran through, but some chump will marry her, so it doesn't matter. There's no wall. Like they're like pissed off at it, or they're too happy about it.
Well,
right?
Obviously the wall doesn't exist for teachers. It's like
well, again, so getting back to the teacher thing, it's like so they're either too happy or they're too pissed off about it, right? So that the too happy guys are the guys who are just like, well, I would bang a chick. I would too. I'm like, she looks good. I get why you're saying that. Hell,
all the time.
Even the reporters in the local news station did the same thing. But like they said, well, what's honest cases? She's very attractive
all the time.
Yeah.
Well, like is she supposed to be Quasimodo and then I'm going to touch these boys? Like, is that what she's
to women constantly? It's crazy media. I see this often. Yeah.
But why is that? Why is that extraordinary? It's extraordinary because we know at species level, we have an unconscious knowledge that a hot chick should be able to get someone her age. She should be able to. She could.
Yeah, any guy she wants. Yeah.
Well, then they conveniently like sidestep the fact that, well, she's already married. Yeah. So the other part I don't think we got to is that the convenience side of it. You got women who are, they got their teaching degree, credentials, whatever. Maybe they're 20. Well, some of these girls are as young as 23 years old.
Yeah.
The average one is between, and I log this too. Average one is somewhere between 24 and 44. They tend to be thin. They tend to actually be better looking, oddly enough. Now, that's not to say that there aren't some fatties and some uglies in there too, but like this is strange. Why? How do these girls, they can get any guy they want. So there's that. There's also the groomers, the ones who like sort of like they think that they can get with the guy after he graduates, right? So technically, is it grooming? Yeah, it is. I mean, it meets all the criteria for the definition of grooming for sure. But it's like the girl who like starts like getting attractive and like, sending nudes or like being sexy with the guy who's 16, now he's 17, now he's 18, he graduates, and then they get after it, right? How many cases are like that? How many, like, it's still inappropriate. They didn't have sex, but she was like, as soon as you're 18, I'm divorcing this motherfucker and we are going at it. Like, how many of those cases exist? I don't know, because it never makes the news because it's not crime, right? So this proximity as well. Once again, when you have a higher concentration of women teachers in the school system, that's going to happen in like disproportionately with women, because there's a disproportional number of women in the education system. As simple as that. So it's the proximity, and it's the reality of it too. It's the seeing that person day after day after day, right? So seeing that kid, especially if it's a good looking, sophomore or junior guy who's plays on the football team or the water polo team. And yes, trust me, the guys I played water polo when I was in high school. We were ripped back then. I tell you from experience firsthand. Now, this was back in the 80s, but I claim the truth here. I saw this in the chat. People like, I don't know, those water polo guys are fat. You cannot be fat and play water polo.
Well, hold on, Vic. I've seen this guy in the studio. Me and Rollo were in the studio. I was looking at him and I was like, well, of course, from a strictly heterosexual viewpoint of men admiring men who develop muscle, train, and work out. We were talking about Hidetaka Yamagishi, who's like a mutual friend of ours. Yeah. And I was like, damn, this guy is built. This guy's diesel. Like, what the fuck are you drinking? Like, Trend water? Like, this crazy. If you look at Rollo in real life, the guy trains like at his age. I would tell all the men watching this podcast, whatever he's doing is working. Obviously, if you see the guy in person, it's not Photoshop. So I just want to side note. I just wanted to say that real quick. It's real life. It's not Photoshop. So, yeah. I think the concentration and the proximity have a lot to do with it. So does that accelerate the red pill, estimation of it? I don't think it confirms everything we've been saying for forever. I don't think here's where I think this will go at some point. It's going to get to the point where it's so epidemic that it's going to be unignorable, and you'll see somebody want to touch on it. It's like I remember when I did an interview. It was me and Mike Sartain. We did an interview with Dr. Richard Reeves, and it was right after the Dr. Phil show, because I was opposite him on the Dr. Phil show. In fact, I was the one who suggested he come on the show, and I really wanted to get him. He's the enemy. You shouldn't. That's a bad look, Rollo. You shouldn't interview this guy. I'm like, I want to talk to the dude. I actually think I think he's got a brain, right? So I talked to the dude. And, this was back before he's like now, like, I mean, he's at the Brookings Institute, but he was also like the leader of Men and Boys, I don't know, administration thing. It's some government position that he's in right now. And really all he does is just raise awareness. He has no plan. He doesn't really do anything more. But like back then there was, a little bit of concern about the manosphere. But now it's crazy. Now we've got adolescents, and now we've got Louis Theroux, and so is that raising awareness for the red pill? Well, yeah,
But what happens is you're going to get people who are players in that, who are loud voices, who pick up that topic as like the topic du jour, and they blow it out of all proportion. They should never be talking about it in the first place because they literally have no clue what the fuck anybody who's been in the space, even, I mean, I've been here for forever, but even if you've been here for like the last like 4 or 5 years, even if you got involved like since 2021 when Fresh and Fit started, you know more about the Manosphere and the Red Pill than Louis Theroux does. You know way more than Rob Henderson does. You know way more than I don't know, whoever set up, who the directors and producers are for adolescents. You know way more than that. Mm-hmm. But that didn't stop these guys from going and pumping a lot of money into something like that. The same thing I think would happen to the female teacher student epidemic right now. What will happen is it will become, so what happens with the Manosphere and the Red Pill, it became unignorable. What will happen with female teacher student, essay, it will become so common and so over the top that it will become unignorable. And then you'll have somebody go, well, we're going to look into this, and you know what they'll do? They'll go, well, this is really bad for women because women feel like they're forced to have this patriarchal society that's driving them into the arms of these 15-year-olds that they're with, 6-8 hours a day, and they will 100%. I take this to the fucking bank. They will make it about men. It will their crimes.
I believe it.
Fault of ugly fat men who legislate whatever, right? Or it'll be men's fault because they damaged those women so that they would run into the arms of the 13-year-old boy and groom him so that she can have a baby with him and get child support from the 14-year-old kid when he's 18 anyways, right? And like guaranteed there will, like, you want to talk about no account, like we want to talk about like how like Fresh and Fit wouldn't hold women accountable. Like, this podcast is to hold women accountable. Nobody's holding women accountable. No one will hold women. Just stop it with that stupid line.
Yeah, no one does.
You will not change their behavior. And you know why? Because of exactly what I said. Because people will make it, they will take it and they will transfer the causality of it to men or something outside of the control, the agency of women. Or it will because they were damaged by an outside force that made them this way, and now they have to go to therapy for it because it will be anything in the universe. But the fact that the kid was hot and she was hot and they wanted to fuck. That was that's the thing. And you know what? She made a bad decision. She committed a crime and she should go to fucking jail for it. A man will go to jail for the same damn thing. And if you don't like it, either bring it up and tell everybody's blue in the face about it, or change the laws.
It's funny because I talk about like certain things. We talk about certain institutions.
I will shut up if you change the consent law. I promise I'll shut up right now because
exactly.
That would fix a lot of shit. So I do a lot of debates, and of course Vic reviews some of them. So a lot of these are heinous views, and people are trying to slowly desensitize us to making this normative, meaning like, oh, she's not that bad. She has damage issues and things like this. So 2 institutions I'll point out. We have the educational systems and we have the church. People will constantly bastardize the church and say, well, the church is bad because the priest this. Well, the church is at least coming up with some solutions for this. Meanwhile, the educational system isn't coming up with jack shit. The question that I do want to ask you is, so when we think about this, what does this reveal about how the feminine imperative protects women from the consequences of their own agencies? Because one institution different, the other one, no solution, perpetuate. It's increasing every year.
Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. Well, it's there's going to the imperative, the narrative, gynocentrism, whatever you want to call it. You got to remember that it's not this unit. It's decentralized, right? Like I've had people saying, well, Rollo, show me who the gynocentric overlords are smoking in the room in silhouettes and like they're the Illuminati of the gynocentric social. I'm like, I'm like, there's no overlords because it doesn't. You know who it is? It's you and me. It's me too. It's because they're, man, I brought this up on Jedediah Bila one time. I said, I told her, I said, conservative women are just prettier liberal feminists. Like one time she got all pissed off about that. And she's like, how dare you? And I'm like, well, I'm not a feminist. I go, yes, you are. I said, you are a feminist. And I said, so am I. And I said, so is everybody who's been born after 1965, right? Because I will guarantee you, I can point in your education, in your background, whether it's religious, whether it's your cultural background, whether it's your schooling, because the people want to say, oh, college is an indoctrination camp. Whether it's your pop culture, you listen to, Beyonce, there's so many ways that you are assimilated and it's saturated into you feminist beliefs. Like I've been locking horns with the trad femme women right now.
Oh, man.
Because there's so many trad femme, or there's so many women who are pastors now of churches, and they're just out there.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And I'm not talking the Nala Rays of the world. I'm just talking like just average wallflower, plain James, who, and why are they up? Why are you on the pulpit in the first place? You're not supposed to be like, because you know why? Because the men who let them there, they're feminists. And they would say, I'm not. You could go. I would bet you could go to Turning Point USA, and you could go to the Women's Ministry or Women's Leadership Ministry Day, which is coming up in June, I think, and ask any one of those women on that panel, and there's probably 24 of them. You ask any of them, do you identify as a feminist? And every single one of them,
they'll say no.
Say no.
They'll say no.
Are you kidding? No to hell no, right?
But Rollo, we have hyper feminists. And I'll even present you Brian Shapiro. Vic will agree with me on that.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing is you ask them that, like, no, Lena Paul, she's a feminist. She dye her hair fuchsia and have underarm pit hair or whatever. Like that's a feminist. That's not like Megyn Kelly. Megyn Kelly is a huge feminist.
Yeah.
It's
not even covert.
Tommy Lahren, man. Tommy Lahren. Is definitely feminist. Brett Cooper, very feminist. And she would say she's not, right? But when you press them on different issues, when you say like, okay, and I had one sentence. These are the best tweets too, because when you can like type one, it's sublime. It's I don't know. It's like Zen experience when you do this. You type one sentence and it goes viral because everybody loses their shit on it. That's when you know you've tapped in, right? You've tapped into the zeitgeist. And I tapped in this. I said this because they were talking about like men need to do this and men need to do that and whatever. I think it was, in a marriage, this is what happens in here. And they were talking about biblical marriage and this. And I said, I asked one simple question. I said, should wives obey their husband? Oh my God. Boom. To like 500,000. It was a million
off.
Like, and women were just beside. I asked a question. They're beside them. How dare you ask that question, right? Well, if they're partners, then there should be, and everybody has a take on it. Everyone has some kind of like, here's how we do it. And it's like 50-50, it's 80-20. It's, well, he needs to lead in the family and And I said, I asked one question. I only want a simple answer. In the Bible, it says,
oh, here we go.
I didn't ask about the Bible. I said, should wives obey their husbands? Simple as that. I don't care biblically, just personally. Should wives obey? It's a very simple question.
Yeah.
But the fact that so many people, it's like a social experiment. It's like the fact that so many people just like got irate over that. And guys too got irate over that. Yeah. It's dumbfounding. But that right there, like I said, a social experiment, that right there, that one simple question, that one tweet that goes viral is the answer to your question.
So
that's the zeitgeist. If that's the temperature of the social fabric of society right now, and this is the case, and teachers are banging their students and everything, they're going to find, like, women are going to find some way to either make it normative, but they're going to make it some way. They already think it's normative. They already think like women, if they knew that they were going to get the death penalty in Florida, like you were saying before, if they knew they were going to get the death penalty, they would still do it because they think that they will be the exception to the rule. They think that it's okay to do those things. They don't rules, laws, statutory. What?
What's that?
That's all Latin, attorney language. They don't know anything like that. They only know the kid is hot, and then their husband's a beta, and they're like, they see this guy all the time, and they're like, it's like that, underbite thing where they're looking at the kid all the time, and they want to get with that guy, and they'll take it. Eventually, they're going to take that chance, and the reason why they feel comfortable in taking that chance is because we have the social fabric says it'll probably slide. You'll probably be okay. And now more of them are getting convicted and sent to like long jail. So the last one I saw was like 14 years, right? They will get, especially if they're grooming, they will get a sentence for that. But is that going to be a deterrent? Like that's what it's supposed to be. Like that's what a jail sentence is supposed to be, a deterrent for the crime, right? You're going to like for an underage boy, you're going to be put to death for this. They'll still do it. And they'll think that they can get away with it because it feels good and it feels like something that women should be able to get away with.
I think that the media has had some play in this, and I think that men have co-opted this as well too. Here's the reason why I wanted to break out this other presentation, and you'll kind of smirk when you see this because this is a video I'd like to bring up. This is an example of media kind of coercing us onto like women not so bad. She was the victim, even though it was a child, right? And these are classical examples that I'll bring up, right? So, forced procreation. There's a comic called Invincible.
This is effectively a trigger warning that I'm providing, as the next part of this video has to do with sexual assault. Following his argument and being dumped by Adam Eve, no sooner than Mark leaves his house, he is intercepted by Anissa, who has been searching for him for 6 months straight. Anissa explains that it's her duty to the Viltrumite species to procreate, and Mark is her most acceptable option. Mark shrugs off her advances, but Anissa, who is arguably still as strong as Mark, attacks and forces herself upon him. Mark attempts to fight her off, but is ultimately unsuccessful, and Anissa Mark. After the assault, she taunts Mark and tells him to man up, as it may take more than one time for her to conceive.
Now, this is a comic. Like, this is something, and of course, if this rolls out, it's not going to get demonized. Well, she told him to man up. And it's fine. Yeah. But if you switch the roles in reverse, it's different. The next classic case I'll bring up is Poison Ivy. She's used pheromones to kind of like induce men underneath some hypnotic trance. And this happened all the time. Of course, I got some stills for you, but this is the scene.
I've always wondered, where does that big old bat light come from?
Why, it's right on top of police headquarters.
And of course, this is normalized. It's fine when she does it, right? And then Wonder Woman's consent removal lasso.
You are welcome.
My ego's far too big to say thank you to someone else.
No consent.
All-powerful persona to compensate for my childhood trauma and poverty.
Oh, I know sex exists. I've just never experienced it.
Right. No consent. Like, what if a guy had a consent removal lasso with little girls, right? Wouldn't really fly that well, right?
Like when Batman and the Flash and the rest of them have to tell the truth, they all like go into this Freudian psychotherapy.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not like, yeah, you got like if it was Batman, like, yeah, you got great tits and I really want to fuck you. Like that is right. The first thing that would come out. Let's be honest, okay?
Oh yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
And what's it like? Can we get a 3-way with the girls in the Amazon, from Amazon, wherever the fuck you're from? Like that would be the first thing that they would think. But no, it's like, oh, I have childhood unresolved trauma, blah, blah, blah. Like,
yeah.
So where does that come from? That comes from a female centric narrative. That's why that's what women think that men would say or would think if they had to be forced to tell the truth. They would agree.
I didn't bring up snoo yet.
Psychology and psychotherapy bullshit, therapy speak. That's what will come out of men if they told the real truth.
Yeah. And the thing is too, is like, I remember I used to watch Law and Order SVU, and then I had to stop watching it because it became too predictable. The bad guy was always the man. And if for some reason, even if a woman was the bad guy, it would always somehow be because of a man. Like it would always be like, oh, he manipulated me into doing this, or oh, he abused me, or he threatened me, and that's why I had to do this. And it became too predictable. It's always the same thing. That it was always a man, no matter what.
So therefore, if me committing murder one is forgivable because some man influenced me, tortured me, psychologically manipulated me, however, like that's the damaged woman. I've written like at least a couple of essays on this. It's the damage for whatever that is, right? Is the get out of jail free card, because it's whatever I did isn't as bad as what was done to me. Whatever I killed babies and fricasseed them on a hibachi, but you know what? It was men in the patriarchal society that put me up to it. Oh, it's okay. Give her a pass. And even if they don't give her a pass, the fact that she thinks that she would be given a pass is the problem right there. And again, going back to like, why do these girls, like, why do these women do it? Is the red pill going to be vindicated of this, whatever? The fact of the matter is that even with the foreknowledge, like if it was in the state of Florida and they could be like put to death for those crimes, right? They would still do them because they think that they should be able to do them. And if their acts are forgivable because the husband they have at home is abusive, right? He's not really abusive, but like you can make up whatever the hell you want to. So it's
emotional abuse
or neglect or neglectful or something.
When I've talked to Jim Sexton, the divorce attorney, that's the first go-to for women who are going into divorce and they know that they want to like get some money out of it. If it's going to be a hostile takeover is what it is. If that's the way it is, they're going to have to try to paint that guy in as worst a possible way as they can, right? So what's the first thing they do? Abuse, damage, psychological, emotional violence, emotional distress, punitive damages, whatever. Like, one time he, snatched the keys from me and, left the house, and therefore I've been damaged ever since. Oh, okay. Give her the house. It's that again, women are wonderful. The victimization thing is easy. That's what men jump to it. Men want to come to their defense because they're biologically, evolutionarily speaking, psychologically, it's baked into even men's psyches to be protective of women. It's the male protector dynamic. I've talked about this so many times. Like they were talking about the mass shooting, right, in Vegas, right? The one 77 people died during that event. Men put themselves in front of women they didn't know and took a bullet and died for women that they didn't know. And it's very common. It happened at the Aspen, Colorado shooting. You'll find it at there's like a country bar shooting recently where guys did the same thing. They will put themselves, and they can't explain to you why. They just do it. Like they're going to take a bullet because the reason why they are is because on an instinctive species level, men have a male protector dynamic for women. And it takes a lot to get men over that. Like I'm saying you can't condition it out of guys. You certainly can. But in the moment, men are going to sacrifice themselves for women. We're hardwired to do that. But that's the most extreme side of the protector dynamic. By order of degrees, it kind of goes like, I'm going to die. That's the highest one you can get to, right? But you go on down the list a little bit more. It's I'm going to always make sure that there's a yin to the yang in any conversation where a woman is, seems like she's being attacked because this guy made an unflattering observation about female nature, right? That's another side of that male protector dynamic. The women are wonderful effect is essentially a manifestation of the male protector dynamic. And so if women think that, or it feels right, it feels like they could get away with having sex with a 15-year-old student and stuff like that. The reason why is because on some level of consciousness, women know that men will come to their defense. He enjoyed it. Yeah. We're damaged. Like we could find a million different ways to make that forgivable, right? Unless it's really unless you're ugly, because only pretty girls. Oh my God, right? And that's why we can't believe that, right? But it's the male protector dynamic that is like fermenting this. And again, this isn't a woke thing or a liberal thing or anything. It's an evolutionary thing. Like women are the vulnerable sex and men are the sacrificial sex, meaning that we will die for the lady because they're the incubators of the next generation. We, as long as we pass the seed on and we die, okay, we're good, because our genetics are going to go on into, we hope, are going to go into posterity, right? But that's that's the thing, is like once you get to the point where you have socialized, we've taken care of everything, every problem for women. We've made it easy for women right now. So therefore, by making it easy, like we've, like I think was it Royce said this. He said the easy or the quickest way to make a woman miserable is to give her everything she wants.
I agree with that.
And we've done that. And so now, well, I want a 15-year-old guy. I'm going to get that. I feels like I should be able to get this.
So crazy.
It feels like you're going to be forgiven for this. So I'm going to go do it anyways, because it feels good and he's hot and it was fun.
Rollo, that leads to my next question. Looking ahead, we've discussed all this, and this would be like one of the final questions I was asked, but there's so many other questions I want to ask you, but I just want to jump to this one because we're right on the cusp of discussing this topic next. Mm-hmm. With more women in these authority positions right now across the institutions, across academia, tech, making private access even easier, do you predict that this epidemic is going to accelerate or skyrocket, or will something finally force society to confront this eventually?
I think it's going to keep going. Honestly, is it going to accelerate? It's already accelerated. I can prove to you it's
even more so than right now.
To you that it's accelerated. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I don't know. Ask me on December.
I don't even want to see it.
And again, it's like what I am aware of too. So I can't really say 100%. But put it this way: it doesn't show any signs of slowing.
It doesn't.
19. I'm probably, by the time I wake up tomorrow, there'll probably be number 20 will be in my inbox. Because I have so many people that know that I do this now that they look for these and like they'll throw the stories out, and they usually throw the ones that I already have. So I have to say already logged. But is it going to increase because of female authority? That's a good question. Well, first of all, female judges. Female judges, first of all, female judges, they tend to inflict harsher sentences on men, and they tend to inflict harsher sentences on men if it's a sexual offense. Okay. So are they doing the same thing? You say the same thing for female judges doing that with women. I don't know. I don't have the stats for that. I have to look that up on Perplexity.
I don't know either.
100% to make an accurate claim. I can't really say that 100%. But I already know this is that there are women already getting lenient sentences as it is for all crimes. So I would include this amongst them. Here, the other thing is will a female judge, will a male judge want to make a example of a woman by throwing the book at her, like giving her the maximum possible sentence? Will a guy do that? There's been instances, I don't really track these instances in like the UK, although sometimes I might, like, if it's really egregious, I might. But in the UK, there's been instances where like women have just got off scot-free because literally the judge says you're too pretty to be in jail. Like, I mean, you're like, I can't believe you.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Of course, but like you're too pretty to be in jail. You can't, like, this couldn't possibly have been you.
Insane.
Or they'll just give them community service or whatever. Like the other problem is like I only see the stories where women, like when there's a sentence that finally comes down, it's only noteworthy because the sentence actually came down, right? That there's actually something there in the first place. Because most of the time, those cases, like remember, I did what 79 and 24 and 91 and 25, and of those, I would say probably about half of them I'm aware of where they were already taken to trial, and just because you got arrested doesn't mean the charges weren't dropped. Just because you got arrested for it doesn't mean that she actually went to jail for it or actually was convicted of the crime for it or went to court for it, went to trial. Or maybe it was settled out of court. I can't tell you like how many of them were actually convicted and went to jail. The ones I do know of are noteworthy. So like a woman who was grooming that one 13-year-old boy, she goes to jail for 14 years. Okay, I'm going to write that. That's going to stick in my head, right? But what's not going to stick in my head is, Becky, the gym teacher who, got after it with the kid a few times in the gymnasium or saw him on the weekends or something like that. The kid dropped the charges and, she got community service. That doesn't make the news. So, but the crime was still committed. And she said, so it's still got away. So is it going to increase? I think it's going to increase because of that. because of the fact that we're like, guys think that the 15-year-old boy enjoyed himself, and so therefore no harm, no foul. And women think that it's going to be okay because they think that it feels good. It should be the way, like there's no accountability for it, or they think, and perceptually they think that there's no accountability for it. And so authority wise, like again, the authority that I'm, sort of referring to as female judges.
Yeah.
Are they going to look at it differently? Then I will guarantee you they'll look at it differently if it was a male teacher and a female student that were involved rather than the other way around, of course. And I would expect a male teacher to do the same thing because most of them tend to be more liberal leaning as it is, and more, that's horrible. We need to make an example. That's toxic misogyny, whatever, toxic masculinity. They want to make, so they'll make a net. God, can you imagine? Like, of course, they want to make an example of those guys, and they end up dead in the jail anyways. But yeah, I mean, is it going to increase? I think it's going to. I think it'll get to the point where it'll get to such an epidemic level that it will be unignorable at some point.
Yeah, at some point.
At that point, hopefully we're going to have some very interesting conversations. But I'm not too hopeful, because if let's say it's a year from now, it's 2027, 2028, and now suddenly the Rob Hendersons of the world or the Steve Stewart Williams, now they want to pay attention to it because they can't not pay attention to it. And the first thing I'll say is, I've been telling you guys about this shit for the last 6 years, and you guys haven't said do about it. And they'll be like, well, no, we've always known this was here. They'll just pull shit out of their ass.
So, like the canary in the bird mind. You've been talking about this, Rollo.
It's just, it'll by that point, it will just be content. It will just be good content for them. And now suddenly they have a concern about it. They're raising awareness. They're not going to do anything about it.
Just because it's
raising awareness about it. That's the thing about, like, that's my main gripe these days is, like, there's so many people who want to, like, talk shit about the manosphere and have no idea what they're talking about. But then we'll talk about, like, male suicide, right? Okay. Or we'll talk about the crisis of masculinity, or like the loneliness epidemic, or like name the issue that Scott Galloway talks about, or somebody else, right? Just name that issue, and I will guarantee you the person talking about it we're raising awareness. What's your plan? What are you doing? Nothing. You're not doing shit about it. Well, we really need guys to. We need guys to have. I've heard what's that comedian? The British guy who does the.
Ricky Gervais?
No, not Ricky Gervais. The other dude who, like, he does audience work all the time. It's on the tip of my tongue. And he's been talking about the Manosphere movie, right? And talking about how guys need to meet up in pubs, and they need to, essentially police the thoughts of other guys, right? We need we need male spaces and all this other shit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's great, but the problem is you want male spaces so other men can police men so that they won't be like Andrew Tate, right? And it's whatever the new hotness is right now. The new hotness is talking shit about the manosphere. The new hotness in another year might be talking about female teachers and the student thing. But will guarantee you they'll butcher it just as bad as they butcher the manosphere right now, because they don't see it as anything that's like anything other than good content. It's just content fodder for them at that point.
So, Rollo, you've documented this epidemic with clinical precision, as I've already demonstrated. Dozens of cases yearly, zero academic interest. Like you said, nobody's interested in this. And the feminine imperative shielding these women from real consequences. So we're going to go down to solution-oriented processes. What's the actual solution at the institutional level? Also, do we need mandatory body cams in classrooms for these students, automatic felony charges or no plea deals, or a total overhaul that forces equal sentencing to male predators? Like, what are we talking about here? If we're going to talk about solutions,
that's actually not like the last one is probably the best, most enforceable one. Like because we could actually
equal sentencing.
You could actually pass a legislation in state. You have to do it state by state, but you could pass a legislation that says that it is mandatory for, like, if the average sentence for a man doing that crime is like the judge cannot grant leniency in that case. Like, is legally, hands are tied, bound. If a man did that, then the woman gets the same exact
realistic.
That would be the way to go about doing that. And I'm surprised nobody's ever brought that up just yet. Making the sentencing mandatory. So if let's just say for
like the
average, right, between men and women, we say, okay, this is what the average is. You're getting that no matter what. If the circumstances are extenuating and egregious, maybe more than that, but you're gonna get this. No plea
no
deals,
sweetheart
no
deal.
parole, no nothing. This is what you get as a result. And if that's the case, then that might have an effect on it. Otherwise, you can just inflict a death penalty on them. Is crazy. But no, the other, okay, so how else do you combat that? What are some solutions? So that's the legal solution, I think. The other solution I would say is that you have to make it has to be awareness has to be a thing. So because a lot of times the other staff, the other female staffers are complicit in these cases.
Looking out.
So if the hot teacher is banging the hot 15-year-old, 16-year-old guy, right? And Becky knows that she's doing that, she doesn't say anything. Guess what? You're now an accomplice to that fucking crime, and you're getting sentenced for that too. Mandatory getting that sentence.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree with that.
You're an accessory to that crime. You knew about it. Here's the text that prove, oh, is he doing this tonight? Find some way to attach her to the crime, make her an accessory to it. But guess what? Now Becky, the student aide, is going to jail because Hottie McPeterson wanted to fuck the 15-year-old. Yeah. You're going to jail. And make that mandatory. Turn that into something that that's definitely a solution. And then and then make, I don't know, you could probably do some sort of social awareness, some kind of campaign for
propagandization.
Yeah. And say, look, here's the case. If a female teacher is coming on to you and she wants to have sex with you and she's initiating an inappropriate sexually explicit relationship, if she's sending you nudes, if she's sending you texts or whatever, blah, 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 understand this, that if you have a child with that woman, you are going to be responsible for that child. Even though because that's how it is right now. Guys say, look, there's been so many of these cases that if you put a baby in that chick, then you're going to be responsible for that baby. And if that happens, you need to report it because Vicky the hottie is committing a crime just by sending you nudes. Right? Now, you didn't even put your dick in her. She sent you nudes.
Still complicit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a possibility. How you get a 15 or 16-year-old kid to say,
do you think we can use the same propagandization that we used for the DARE program back in the day when we used to have drug addict needles and stuff? It's very harsh, right? Do you think that women would be accepting of harsh propagandization of posters? Let's just say we have a poster of a hot teacher. She's got curves and it says, if you see this, report it. Do you think that would be too much shame if we have a black and white poster and there's a kid looking like he's very scared of this hot teacher? If we have this, do you think that would be too much, or do you think that's unrealistic to have?
There's nothing that brings me back to the 80s quicker than the 90s quicker than the DARE posters that used to be all over the place.
Yeah.
Dare to keep kids off of drugs, dare to keep teachers off of students. Teachers
off of students,
the hell out of that.
Yeah. Just say no to students.
Dare to keep female teachers from raping students.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can make a public awareness thing of it, but again, did the DARE program keep kids from doing drugs? No. But were you aware of it? Yes. I mean, making it social awareness of it is
awareness. I think
definitely awareness.
I think I think if you made anyone complicit in it, like an accessory to the crime, that would definitely be a deterrent.
Major deterrent. Yeah.
The other part is this would never fly. This will never fucking happen.
Oh, I gotta hear this
out there anyways, is if that woman conceives as a result of essentially raping that kid, therefore she has two choices. She either aborts the child or she will receive no child support payment from that kid. Make that mandatory. Say you have the kid, but he doesn't have to pay jack shit. You are on your own, and you don't get AFDC, and you don't get any government support. You get jack shit. You are on your own, and you have to take no fucking EBT cards, no nothing. You have to take care of that kid on your own. You can either abort the child or you can have the child, and you are 100% the responsible for that child's well-being.
So, Rollo, your framework,
guy's off the hook. Doesn't have to do anything.
In your framework, Rollo, the feminine imperative has zero interest in self-policing female hypergamy or agency. I agree with this, right? So who enforces the solution? Men refusing to fund or participate in this? Because you brought up defunding. Do you think that would be a solution, or do you think that's unrealistic?
Well, okay, so this is a broader conversation, actually.
Yeah, it's definitely more broad.
You will hear a million guys say, well, the only reason feminists are around is because men allow them to do what the fuck they want to do, right? Yeah, but do women have agency or do they not have agency? You need to answer that question first before.
That's fluid, depending on who you ask sometimes.
Exactly. Because, like, for instance, if the kid enjoyed it, is it an act of her agency? Is it an act of his agency, right? So, who made the choice? Who's responsible for the child, right? Oh, well, he should be responsible for the child, but she committed a crime, and the child was the result of the crime. If it was the other way around, and a man raped a kid, and the woman wanted to have the kid of the rapist, that's cut and dry. That's already there, right? But what if it's the other way around, right? Well, the only way you're going to get to that legislation that I suggested, right? The only way you're going to get to any kind of real kind of change of this situation or a change of women's behaviors if men take the initiative to do so. And that requires men to unapologetically step up and say, this is a fucking problem. It is unique to the female of the species. And this is how we need to regulate this, because this fucks up society.
Yes.
This problem is you're never going to find guys to do that unless it's an election year and they want to be like off the rails, right? But there's not going to be any will to, like, for instance, I said we should probably come up with, I don't know how to write the legislation. We should probably write some sort of legislation that mandates that if a female teacher statutorily sexually assaults a male student, beneath the age of consent in the state that they happen to be in, that woman has to be charged and has to be sentenced with this as the minimum sentencing for it. Okay, so it seems pretty simple to me, right? I don't know how I would write that.
Not unreasonable.
The fact is there's no point in me trying to write it because it will never pass.
Yes.
Because I have a penis. And the people who need to be writing that have vaginas, because they are the ones that will be listened to. The very fact that I would propose that legislation, go to the trouble, the effort to write the thing out and say, here's what I think we should do, right? And let's put it to a vote on, it'll be one of the ballot issues in November, right? But the very fact that a man wrote that, oh my God, I might as well be like a man, mandating the abolishment of Roe v. Wade. Right? Because I'm technically taking away a woman to a degree. I'm taking away that woman's hypergamous choice, and that's why women have a problem with men involving themselves in abortion. It's my body, my choice. It's or birth control for that, like limiting birth control. Anything that inhibits women's hypergamy is at the very least suspect, right? That's why women love like the show, like The Handmaid's Tale.
Traumatization.
It's this death fantasy for feminists. They love it. That's why it's so popular a show. And the women wear red, cassocks and the flying nun ears and shit like that to go to protest Trump, because it's so. Well, what's it founded on? The fictional world of Gilead, right? I'm ashamed to say I even know the name of it. Gilead, which is what? It is a totalitarian society that forces women to have babies that they didn't choose to have with men that they didn't choose to have. It is the worst possible, most invasive, most horrible thing a woman can imagine is have a child that they didn't choose to have with a man that they didn't choose to reproduce with, right? So if that is the level of like psychotic, reaction that women have to an HBO show, it's like, now imagine Rollo Tomasi of all people saying, here's what I think should happen to these teachers who are essentially exercising their choice to fuck the 15-year-old and not their husband, right? Because whatever else, but the very fact that I would do that The very fact that a man would establish it's going to have to be a conservative female that proposes that legislation. And that won't happen. It won't. I would get run up the flag. God, can you imagine what would happen if I did that? God, I would get great press. But if I put that legislation out there, it would never pass, and people would just call me one of those toxic manosphere red pill guys that Louis Theroux made fun of. Like that's what they would just dismiss it, right? But if you got Helen Andrews to pass things, write it for her and put Helen Andrews' name on it and give it to him, pass overnight. It would go right in. Because, oh my gosh, yes, you're right. Because we've reached epidemic levels. I can't believe, I mean, everybody wants the press, everybody wants the content, everybody wants to feel like they've done something. And now we're actually doing something, right? And maybe it goes down as a result, but it's not going to be a guy that does it. It needs to It needs to be a guy that does it, but it will not be a guy that does it. It'll be a woman that does it.
It's terrible that men have women bought in on this. And the fact that we're having the conversation saying that we're deleting sexual mating strategies with women from children or kids is wild to me. I mean, I can't even compare this to anything else. It sounds hyperbolic, but this is actual reality that we're living in right now. If you were to go ahead and delete this, Roe v. Wade, overturning the 19th Amendment, like all these other things, it really sounds like a really far-fetched thing when we're talking about something simplistic. When it was on the other shoe, of course, we get rung up the flagpole by you even mentioning this or even presenting this as a case to the court for changing. This is crazy.
I can't even talk about it on an A-list podcast. I'm not going to get. Do you think that Steve Bartlett is going to call Rollo Tomasi and say, "Hey, we really need to talk about this like female teacher student SA epidemic"?
Oh man,
what's your schedule look like, Rollo? That's not going to happen.
Wait, did you just call me not an A-list podcast? No, go ahead, Rob.
They're going to call the safest edgelord they can find. They're going to find Jordan Peterson or Scott Galloway, who will overnight become an expert on this, right? I've been doing this forever. No, you haven't. They will never be the people who actually know about the shit, right? But they'll say, well, raising awareness. But again, Helen Andrews could probably go in on Steve Bartlett and say exactly that verbatim, everything I've said here, and you guys with the conversation we've had thus far today. Like, she could go and have that with Steve Bartlett, and it will be this groundbreaking, revelation of, oh my gosh, here's the way forward.
Salacious. Yeah.
But if it comes from me, or you, or Mike Sartain, or any Myron Gaines, or Ryan Stone, or anybody else in the manosphere proper, it'll never see the light of day because the A-listers are part of the machine. Like Steve Bartlett's part of the machine. Chris Williamson, part of the. Chris Williamson will not call me up and ask me to come and talk about this on his show. That will never in like 10 lifetimes happen.
Speaking of a Chris, how about here's an idea. Since we're talking about Chris's, what about a Chris Hansen coming out of the kitchen saying, "Hey, you've been tutoring little Jimmy for a little bit. How come we can't do this now?" Here's the thing that I'll even say. Doesn't this kind of expose the failure of the Me Too movement or believe all women when teachers are being caught doing this to a certain degree?
Yeah, well, I mean, you got to remember what the Me Too movement, the Me Too, it's funny, it's like Me Too, the hashtag existed since 2006. You didn't hear about it until 2018. And then the other
got involved.
I am so fucking sick of can we just get over the Me Too shit? Because no, I mean, is it a reversal of that? I don't think it's a reversal of that per se, but it's an interesting contrast for sure. Remember that the Me Too movement was intended as a social weapon against Trump in his first presidency. So it was meant to stick to Trump for his dalliances with the porn star chick,
Daniels,
Stormy
Daniels,
Stormy Daniels, yes.
I was gonna say Smokey. I was like,
well, I mean, Mike Sartain talks about it. He says you elected a president who essentially cheated on his wife with a porn star while she was pregnant, and nobody cares. And you know what? Nobody cared about the Me Too movement, but the principle of the Me Too movement comes to bite people in the ass, especially the people who are proponents of it. So if you look at like what's happening with what's that guy's name? What the fuck? It's on the tip of my tongue. The guy who's in the movie. What the fuck is his name? Anyways, the guy, that Weish guy. I forget, I'm trying to think of the dude's name at the top. Like me and Mike have been talking about this dude for forever. Right now, he was in the CBS show that we were just in.
Not Ruffalo, right?
No, he was one of the guys that got. He was one of the dudes who got my traffic shifted over to his podcast, which is, I don't think he's even going on anymore. What the fuck was that dude's name? Anyway, but long story short, the guys who used it as sort of like their grift, now it comes to bite them in the ass. It's like male feminists, like the sword that you use is the one that's going to, you live by the Me Too, you die by the Me Too.
Yeah, like seppuku.
As soon as a male feminist says there's a male feminist, the clock is ticking for his SA charges. Like it's Me Too.
A finite tool.
Yeah. And again, that's all that Me Too was it's just weaponized. It was just a weaponized social movement is all it was. And it worked on Brett Kavanaugh. Like, remember when Brett Kavanaugh
that was crazy.
That was insane.
And for what? For a kegger party he was at when he was like 16 or 17, and that was some girl tails or some shit like that.
They squeezed all the juice out of that case.
Why was that even an issue? Well, because Me Too was a thing. And you'll still hear guys today, like today, Me Too is just a cop out for guys not going out and like approaching women. I don't want to get Me Too. You're not. Me Too isn't a thing. It never has been a thing. It's only been it was only a social movement because they thought they could get Trump with it, and they tried to get Brett Kavanaugh with it. Oh, it didn't. Okay, we're good. Thanks.
And then there's some celebrities too that got hit with that too, like Louis C.K. and stuff like
Justin
that.
Baldoni, that's what his name is. Justin Baldoni. He was in the movie with what's her name?
What's her name?
Ryan Reynolds' wife. Her name.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
That dude is so weesh and so male feminist and so just, the guy has a pussy, man. I'm
yeah.
God for like Deadpool, because yes. And so what's funny is now he's got like sexual harassment charges for this movie that he did with is it Liv? It's not Liv Tyler, it's somebody else. Anyways, I don't care. But the fact of the matter is this is the guy who was like so pro Me Too, and now he's having Me Too used against him. And so is it theoretically possible for like women to have the same used against them for the teachers and the students? No, it's never going to happen that way because it's women that are involved. It's women who are the perpetrators, but they're already the victims because they're
the individual.
But they have pimps.
At the individual male level, Rollo, you've always preached that, being unplugged, male self-improvement, things like this. For the boys who do survive this and the men raising them, what's the red pill solution playbook that we would say, like early female authority figures that aren't exempt from hypergamy, focusing on building unbreakable frames, or something to prepare them to navigate the eventual exit of a rigged system that's against male vulnerability right now? As young boys, what would you tell them?
You wrote all that down, didn't you?
I had so many questions, Rollo, before this, but I wanted all these answers at the same time too.
So this is a variation of the Rollo. I just had a birthday, by the way. So everybody asked me, Rollo, what would you tell your 18-year-old self? Nothing, because my 18-year-old self would tell me to go fuck off. Because like you're not going to tell them anything. So how do you prepare your kids for the future? Well, I wrote a book about that. It's called The Rational Male, Positive Masculinity. It's my third book, and about 3/4 of it are dedicated to red pill parenting. And the answer I'll give you now is the one I start with in that book, which is you have to know if you're a parent of like a teenage boy, especially a son. I mean, I have a whole thing dedicated to daughters too, as well, because I have a daughter. But if you have a teenage son, the best thing that you can do as a father is be red pill by example. That's first, because kids don't listen to what you say, they watch what you do, right? So if you give them some sort of fatherly way, sage advice or something, if they absorb 10% of it, you're a winner. You won the fucking lottery, right? Because they're not going to listen to it. But if you set an example and you set boundaries, not just with your wife and your girlfriends and all that, boundaries are also for your sons. Boundaries are also for your daughters. Boundaries are for your freaking dogs, man. Okay. Boundaries are for every. You're dealing with me. There's boundaries here. I don't care what your job title is. Okay, so that's I think is something that needs to be established, like by if you're talking about strong fathers and leadership role, everybody wants a leader in the family and stuff like that. Nobody wants to deal with the fact that the leaders actually are the ones that are setting the boundaries. Leaders are the ones who are enforcing the boundaries and the consequences for breaking those boundaries too. And he has to have the authority to do that.
Sure.
But you have a 15-year-old boy and he's in high school or whatever. And like, I think we're having this discussion a little bit more now because of what's going on in the UK, right? With adolescence and the manosphere and everything. And everybody's so concerned with their boys. What are we teaching them? Well, nothing. You're not teaching them anything. Like, tell me what you want them to learn, right? Like, what is toxic masculinity versus like good masculinity? What is conventional masculinity versus anything else? Right? Well, you got to have fathers that embody that and live that out and demonstrate that, because you can't explicate. Don't demonstrate. Do not explicate. Right? You have to have fathers that will demonstrate that, and there's not enough fathers that even can do that for fear of what I was saying before. Like, I can write the legislation and it will never go see the light of day because I'm male. But if I do it anyways, I'm demonstrating that I got the balls to go and say, hey, look, these bitches we're going to get these crazy ass, teachers in pocket, man. And the fact that I would do that, even if it never sees the light of day, maybe a 15-year-old kid on a soccer team saw me do that and go, damn. Or somebody else does, like setting an example. Like, I think if enough guys started doing, if enough guys started doing it, and damn the consequences, like maybe you go to jail for whatever, maybe you suffer social consequences, but you did it, and somebody else sees I could do that too, or maybe it's time we start working. Because
you're talking about martyrdom.
Just takes one guy to start. It takes a handful of people to start a real change.
Societal martyrdom.
Somebody does something, another guy does after that, another guy does it after that, another guy does that. It's each one tell one. And I've always been like, that's always been my approach to the red pill. The reason I work with my Reignite group and I work with Mike's MOA group is because we're not MRAs. We're not like, we need to change society and change the world and change the laws and change. That's top down. I'm bottom up. I'm each one tell one. Work with each individual guy, and maybe that's the smart son of a bitch that puts that legislation out.
That's very simple.
I'm not a lawyer, but maybe I know a lawyer or somebody who says, I heard this thing on the woke autopsy podcast, and I know this sounds crazy, but do you think we could do this? Somebody will maybe gets inspired to do that as a result, because I had the balls to just even talk about it, right? So it just takes guys actually, and it doesn't take that much. You don't have to march on Washington. You just have to have like conflicting, like radical ideas, and maybe some of those see the light of day, and maybe some of those don't. But
like these podcasts.
Well, as far as kids are concerned, and teaching the next generation, I think that's definitely the starting point, the point of origin for it. And then, what do you leading by example is like, what kind of kid do you want to have? Well, be the kind of father that's the kind of kid you want to have, right?
Obviously true. Yeah.
And then the other part of the positive masculinity when I'm talking about red pill parenting is know what you're up against. You're up against a school system and an education. People say, "Oh, just take your kids out and homeschool." That is like an option for a very scant few, population of people. Okay, does it sound good? Yeah, great. But you know what? 90% of the rest of the people are going to go to public school or college or whatever, right? But at least you can be prepared. So, for instance, when people say, well, Rolla, why did you send your daughter off to UNR and then she went to UNLV and everything? Those are like, they're colleges. They're feminist indoctrination camps, don't you? I'm like, yeah, but she's my daughter. And she's been prepared for that. And she knows she's very, very solid about that. And now she's married. She has a husband. She has a master's degree and she's looking at a doctorate actually. But she's got a, magna cum laude. She's a fantastic kid, right? She does not have purple hair. She did not come out as some raging tattooed feminist with a septum piercing. And why?
Yeah.
because I set the example, and because her mom and dad still love each other, and we still fuck each other, and we still go to church on Sundays, and we still, we're very smart people, and I think we have a good positive outlook on life. We made a pretty damn good kid. And you know what?
We're always her dad. So
when I sent my daughter off, and and to the college I paid for, and the dorm I paid for, I wasn't worried about it.
Yeah.
Because here's, you can cloister and shelter your kid in a plastic bubble all day long, but you still got to, sooner or later, they got to go out into society. And if you think that society is so fucking bad that you need to do that in the first place, that's really on you preparing your kid for the chaos that they have to endure. And I will tell kids this. I tell my guys in Reignite this. I'll tell guys on your podcast this: is stop being afraid of this shit and learn to stop trying to make everything like get everything in this rigid law and order kind of shit. You learn to thrive in the chaos, learn to know what's coming, see the dangers before they get there, and be set an example for other guys while you're at it. But you know what? Shit's not going to change. It doesn't get easier. Like one thing here, I just turned 58 years old. Well, what have you learned in 58 years? Here's a nugget of truth. Shit doesn't get easier. It gets more complex as you get older. Well, like the shit that I know that that I'm responsible for right now, like for my own well-being, my own prosperity, my dog's well-being, my wife's well-being, my mother-in-law who lives with us, my car. I'm working on a car earlier today before I came on the show, asking you. That's why I asked you what time the show was. It doesn't get easier. There's so many working parts that have to be synchronized and have to work fire at the same, like all the pistons have to fire at the same goddamn time, right? It doesn't get easier. And you know what? Next year, your V8 turns into a V12. And now you got a whole nother set of problems and complexities, because if you don't know how to do that, you're going to get lapped. Some smart motherfucker can do it, is going to do it. And so better to teach your kids how to thrive in the chaos, rather than to try to protect them and keep them in this, keep secure in some, I don't know. Exactly. Some
like a bubble girl,
some compound in I'll tell you this, I love these shows. I really do. But I like shows like Yellowstone. I like anything by Taylor Sheridan, right? I talk about this all the time. I would just watch The Madison, which is actually, I hate to admit it, it's actually a pretty good show. But those shows, they all take place in Montana. They all take place in the north, in the Midwest, right? It's always these sweeping panoramas of like some like fly fishing on some unknown river. They're always this beautiful scenery and everything, and it's this idyllic lifestyle. And it's like how these people like abandon their complex world and in Manhattan, and then they choose a simpler, they're still multimillionaires, they choose a simpler life in Billings or some shit like that. And the thing is like that's the reason, why those are very popular shows. It's because people want security, man. They want to get away from this shit. They want to have some sort of sense of balance or whatever, because life doesn't get easier. It just gets more complicated, and it's better to be able to deal with it and be prepared for that shit. I would rather put armor on my daughter and give her a sword and send her into college than to I'm going to keep you here and you're not going to do anything. I'm just going to keep feeding you applesauce until you're adulted. That, man,
could have the opposite effect.
Yes.
And I can see that. Well, there's this whole mantra of the Catholic schoolgirl. Gee, wonder what happens with this whole trope that happens. So it's the same thing.
People are people. Yeah. So here, I've been getting into this with some of these guys are giving. I'm locking horns with some people who are actually friends of mine, but we're talking about like sexist marriages recently.
Cold bedrooms,
and then I love it how like female pastors have to tell you, well, it's because men need sex, okay, but the reason they need is for communication and affirmation and acceptance and this and all these female reasons, all these female reasons why women have sex. I'm like, no, they don't. We just want to fuck.
It's really simple.
We rub one out to Pornhub, but we're not going, I really want to feel connection with Janet Jameson.
That's crazy.
I just feel like I'm more connected with them when I watch this, and I'm good now. No, we don't. Like, and everybody wants to fight me on this. But the thing is like and this is part of the upbringing, it was like, I accept the fact that I'm fully human and she's fully human and your 15-year-old son's fully human. You know what your 15-year-old son's going to want to do? He's going to want to bang the 24-year-old teacher. Yes, absolutely he is.
Yeah.
And so am I. I want to fight and I want to fuck and I want to write sonnets and I want to write the next great American novel and I want to be able to drive my Camaro at 150 miles an hour. Like there's all kinds of things that I want to do, right? Because I have the desire and the impulse to do those things. Are they all healthy for me? Some of those need regulation,
Yeah.
But the thing is like there's the desire for it. And it's like I joke about this all the time. It's like there's a very wise sage philosopher by the name of David Lee Roth once said, everybody wants some. Everybody wants some, right? Everybody wants some, got some, get some, right? The whole thing. Remember when was it the cheaters at the Coldplay concert with the chick?
Oh yeah.
Crazy. Everybody wants them. He just wants to get down. She wants to get down. That's where it's at. I'm not excusing it. I will tell you why it happened though. I'm not ignorant as to why it happened. And I am not ignorant as to why the 24-year-old, 26-year-old, 34-year-old woman wants to bang the 15, 16, 17-year-old guy. He wants some too, right? It's dual mating strategy. I will die on that fucking hill. And I will tell you the truth, even when the truth fucking hurts. I'm not saying I endorse that truth. I'm not saying it should happen. I'm just telling you that it does, and here's why it doesn't.
Yeah, that's an is claim, and I hear that. So here's the thing, though. There's so much to unpack here because we're talking about discipline too. You can't tell a 15-year-old boy to be more disciplined when there's somebody who's his superior authority figure that's violating him. When really, if you look in the comment section too, like there's so many tier levels to this where it's like you look at the comment section and his buddies are cheering him on, and it's almost like this is the hardest thing to address from so many different angles because there's allowance here and then there's acceptance here, and then next thing you know there's like people are screaming accountability when you're never going to see it because women aren't going to police themselves or any of this. I'm thinking like how unrealistic is this uphill battle that we're addressing here, and will there ever be solutions? And I feel like I'm saying the same thing over and over again, but at the same time this is just wild that I don't think, and this may be the doomerism in me talking about this nihilistic, like there's also the issue of people saying, well, we should homeschool more people. Well, you're right. Not everybody can homeschool. There's so much to unpack here. I feel like we need an 18-hour podcast to even address the simple issue of PDF aisles dealing with kids. When you say this, you'd automatically think men, but we're talking about women here. And I'm just like, I don't even know if we'll have a resolution to this, Rollo.
Yeah. Well, and maybe not. Maybe we won't. Not until it gets bad enough. Not until it inconveniences enough people.
That I agree with.
Not until people lose money. Not until people lose their life. I mean, that's like a drug addiction, right? You do drugs until you can't do drugs, right? It's what rock bottom is, right? You do drugs until you die. Yeah, you do drugs until you can't anymore, right?
Yeah.
The same thing, like I bring up, I mean, the reverse of this, of course, is too much, too young, too fast, right? So if you look at guys like, I'll bring it up, Jordan Peterson or Kevin Samuels, right? Like if you have a drug addiction or you've got an alcohol problem before you're famous and make a lot of money, now you're a famous guy with $10 million in the bank who's also an alcoholic and a drug addict.
Yeah.
Not gonna, that's a bad combination, but it's basic math. I'm just telling the truth. That's basic math. So is there ever going to be a solution to any of this? We just came up with a couple on our own right now. The solution's not hard to figure out. It's the will to fucking make it happen. That's hard to make it happen. To actually, knock on the legislation door and say, hey, I think this should be on the ballot next year, right? I don't know how. Maybe I should figure it out. I mean, if I really cared about it, I should do it, right? But I would only be doing it I would be doing it for, I think, a social good, but people would see it as it being like popularity, kind of notoriety grandstanding. Like it's clout jacking, right? Because you can't get around clout jacking these days. I can't do anything. I can't post a picture on Instagram or Twitter. It could be the most innocuous. I could be just me and Ned, me and my dog. You're flexing your dog. Everything's a flex. Everything I do is a flex. If I went and put out that legislation and it's like, you're just doing that because you want more people to pay your book. Well, yeah, but I'm doing this because I actually care about this too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because people will always say the same thing. I like I said, I can't post a picture anywhere. My God, so I don't care now. I just go post and I'll flex. Oh, you want me to? Okay, I will. Like I'll lean into it now. But the point I'm making is that it's impossible to get away from clout culture right now, and that I think is a major hindrance for actual progress and actually doing something new. So really real changes, I mean, just God, I'm going to wax philosophical here, but like the real changes happen because of technologies. Like look what happened in the brief amount of time that only
access. Yeah, for sure.
A disrupting technology is definitely a way to start change. Ideas are, I mean, they have to be radical ideas. Because you can kill a person, but it's hard to kill an idea. And then, I mean, you trying to change people's behavior with a social motivation, with the social push right now is
tough.
It's impossible because we have a globalized sexual marketplace. We have a globalized social media marketplace. So for any movement you could possibly come up with, there's going to be some people already know about it. There's a counter movement for it before you even got started, right? And so what are the real problems? Well, the problem with that is legislation and things don't actually happen until people die, until people get hurt, until people have drug addictions and they die, until
corporations fail, money goes.
My wife always says this, that people don't learn unless there's pain involved, right? Unless you get whacked, unless the dog won't learn not to shit in the house unless you whack it on the nose every time it shits in the house. Okay, now it shits outside. Great. Okay, we figured it out. Isn't there some nice way? No, there's no nice way to do that. It sucks. I don't like to do it, but it is effective, and that's the way it has to be. And unfortunately, that's how human beings learn too. They learn from consequences. When we talk about accountability, I'm going to hold this woman accountability. Okay, but you're not enforcing any consequences.
It's like a fool's errand.
There's no punishment involved. You think, do you honestly think that girl is, because you came up to her on the street and interviewed her or whatever, do you honestly think she's going to go home and go, he's right, I think I'm going to change my life? No, it's not, because the incentives for her to go and make more money on OnlyFans or whatever else the fuck she's doing, or whatever the guy's doing. I'm not going to pick on women. The same thing applies to dudes too. You're not going to change that kid's mind. You're just an old fuck that Rolo guy. He's too fucking old. I bet he's bald. Yeah,
that's another thing. You bring up like OnlyFans. There's an epidemic of teachers getting on OnlyFans and then them being discovered. I covered this last week. And the teacher that was talking about this, they talked about it in a lighthearted way. Well, she just happened to get caught. What do you mean she just happened to get caught? She was doing sex work.
Yeah.
Well, and then some of the students subscribed to her OnlyFans, and then they had said this. This is how their framing went. She just happened to get caught, and she was just trying to generate a second income. Wait, what are we talking about here again? Like, so this is also the social allowance that we're talking about. This is crazy, Rollo. What do you think about this as well, too? This is also opening up doors for allowance.
We have democratized women's sexuality, basically. Well, you know, like what we're doing right now, podcasting, this is the democratization of media, right? We are the media right now.
Sure. Yeah.
Like Nick Fuentes, Myron Gaines, hell, Tim Pool gets more. He has more eyes on the screen than CNN during that time slot. He definitely has people's attention, right? He is the media, for better or worse, right? I mean, I liked him, but the thing is like that's it's always going to be a race to figure out who's going to have the loudest voice in all of this. So as far as but that's as a result of democratization of, remember we're talking about a technology, a disrupting technology. In this case, it's I have a digital camera. I've got this mic. I've got I got this board. I got everything else going on here, and I have YouTube, which takes 30% of my revenue, and I have all these other things, right? But OnlyFans, but how am I making money doing this? Oh, I have books, I have a program, I've got my Audible, I've got Reignite, I've got other things, I've got other multiple streams of revenue as a result of what I do here. Like, I don't mind coming and talking to you guys for 2.5 hours. But the thing is that it's democratization of a media. And I know this firsthand because I remember I watched it happen back in the 90s when desktop publishing took over traditional media. And you could no longer be a traditional publisher. You had to learn Quark Express and Adobe Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator, and you had to learn how to do all this stuff on a computer, and all this stuff that you used to do by hand, now you do it on computer. Guess what? Same thing happened in music. Now we don't record on, multi-track tapes. I can record. Everything I need in a studio that would cost me like probably $2,000 or $3,000 to run like a 2-song demo back in like 89 or 90. I can do it multiple times over right now just on this computer. Hell, I can do it on my tablet, right?
Yeah.
But it's the democratization of music. Well, we've democratized sexuality now for women. So any woman can be a stripper in the comfort of her own home. And she doesn't have to have sex. She doesn't have to have penetrative sex. She can just like show off her boobies and lingerie and get tips. And if she's engaging enough and friendly enough and affable enough to convince the guys on the other side of the screen that she actually gives two shits about them, have another tip, make it rain for her, right? She's my favorite now. And so now, for the first time in history, like, you think about the economic, not to mention social and socio-sexual disruptor that democratizing female sexuality via OnlyFans has done. Like, we're only 4 years into this experiment. Like, 2020 was when it went really popular, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think it was 2019 to where we are right now. It's now a $7.3 billion company as a result of that.
Well, I think it's going to destroy itself to some degree. And here's why I think that, too, because I look at Vegas. If you look at Vegas was popping way longer ago. Why is there a reduction of this? Well, when you're talking about this and you're talking about institutions making more money, you can now gamble at home. You don't need to go to Vegas for this. You can now see a stripper at home. You don't need to go to a strip club for Vegas for this. So now I think there's a reduction of this. But think about how they're stabbing themselves in the foot when they're saying, well, I can just do this from home. There's going to be a reductio that happens to where it eats itself alive. I don't know at what point, in what form this is going to happen, but I foresee this happening in the future if it's destroying education institutions by women doing OnlyFans and teaching at the same time, and then women having access to more tech and students have more access to teachers through text messaging. Like I said in the previous thing, there was 1,500 text messages between a student and teacher. Imagine the images that were sent as well too, and the suggestions, the databases, and the evidence they have. So I think it's all self-destructive in the end, but to what end?
Well, sorry, go ahead. Or go ahead.
Oh, I wasn't going to say anything, but I was going to add to that a little bit. We're just with the phone, with the technology. Teachers have even easier access to these kids because they get their number. They're able to share their pictures with these children, message them back and forth without the parents knowing.
Here's a real question.
A lot easier.
Here's a real question for you. Okay, so we can say that. We can say technology facilitates this, which it does, obviously, right? So there's that's how these women get incriminated, right? Like, in no other era could a 24-year-old teacher send a 15-year-old boy nudes, right? You'd have to take Polaroids. Here you go.
Yeah,
exactly. More work.
Right. Let the film develop.
More work. The field trip. Yeah, like that is, yeah. So the technology definitely facilitates this like no other time, right? So the real question is this: is the behavior, is the women, teachers banging their students, is that the result? Is it a sign of the times? Is it because technology changed us? Is it because human beings changed because now she feels comfortable doing this? Or has that impulse always existed, but it couldn't be manifested because we didn't have the technology for it to happen before? And we did think about the circumstances. What did I say? 79, 80% of your teachers are going to be female for most of your life. Like, no, unless you're a coach or a math teacher, pretty much, right?
Well, you're talking about tools that are magnifiers. And when we're talking about these magnifiers, now we have access and magnifiers put together. What happens? Now we have a 10 times multiplier of what's happening right now. We're seeing what's underneath the surface of what's been restrained. I think that this has always existed, but to what end? And like I said, the barriers are now taken off. Now we're moving to social acceptance of this and numbing society and desensitization with OnlyFans and sex work. Now merge these two together. What do we have? We have allowance now, more and more. That's why the numbers are going up, and also the escalation of more teachers as well too.
My argument is this: is that it is the nature has everybody wants some, right? The nature has always been there. Women have always been like this. Men have always been like this. It's just now that we have the technology to be aware of it 24/7. It is a constant reminder of what female nature is and male nature is. And we have more and more data. And I could not have written this book in any other decade, in any other century, because I needed the internet. I needed social media. I needed access to the information to get that so that I could write the stuff that's in this book, right? I needed to be able to self-publish. I couldn't self-publish before 2005, right? That kind of shit, or sell on Amazon as easily as I do, right? Essentially that's the democratization of the publishing industry right there as well. But the thing is like the nature of the beast and the machine is still built the same way. So are we the way we are because of technology, or have we always just fucking been this fucked up and we're just more aware of it right now? And I don't even call it fucked up. I just we're more aware of our nature right now. And that's why I get into so many combative conversations with people, because it's my philosophy, me personally, not the red pill, me personally, that we've always been this way. It's just that we're now seeing it amplified, and we're seeing all the veneer and all the things that used to hide that there was no opportunity to do those things, or for a 24-year-old teacher to get with a 15-year-old student before with text, and before there were that concentration of women, and younger women are getting their education degree, and more men are pushed out of education as a result of all that, as a result of technology too, by the way. So now, are we creatures that were created by this social, or are we socially constructive, social constructionism? Or have we always just been this way and we're just hyper aware of it right now because we have instant access to it all the time? Like same thing with porn, right?
Yeah.
Like pornography. We have, in no other era in human history have we had the access to the level of sexuality. And virtually, admittedly, I mean, sometimes for real, obviously, but at no other era in human history have we had the access to the kind of sexuality that we do. That's just on a cell, like a 10-year-old kid can get on a cell phone. He can see sexual imagery that was reserved for Caligula and the dynastic emperors of China. Right. And not even them. It would shock them too, because they would.
Caligula, that's a crazy, what a hard man to shock. Also, we have a hard out in about 20 minutes, Rollo.
I got to go anyway. So
just a heads up.
Yeah, that's fine. It's all good. I know I could go for hours. That's just how it works with me. But
no, that's fine. So you were one of the guests that all I need to do is kind of prod you a little bit, and you're going to have a whole dissertation after one question. I love it because you're just a wealth of knowledge. And the questions that I had to ask for you were pertaining to the next group of men. There's a lot of men that watch my channel. There's a lot of men that watch Vic's channel. And I noticed that before you talked about people looking for a reference as far as a father figure and roles to look at, things like this. I remember, I never told you this, but I remember when I started looking into men's spaces, things like this, you're one of the first people that I saw. And a lot of the things that you were saying were making sense, but I can also map this onto reality and understand where this came from. A lot of this logically made sense. And that's why I wanted to formulate questions, because I was like, well, there's only so much allotted time that I have to ask you questions. And there's so many people watching. And then not to mention this, but like men, we have to be solution oriented to some degree. But even if I couldn't find a solution, I wanted to come the closest to it. So I want to ask you this last question. Would you be the first kamikaze pilot to run first into this and have everything obliterated that you built on the sake of you fighting this whole case of women teachers sleeping with students?
I don't think that would be career ending for me to do something like that.
Hyperbole, of course.
I don't think it's that. But quite honest, I mean, trust me, there are much bigger ways for me to like flame out than that. Right now, and bigger people have tried. So, it's I wouldn't worry about that. But as far as like me being a sacrifice or something like that, I mean, I've come to the conclusion that like I can't get out of this space. Like I am the red pill. Like I'm not red pill adjacent. I don't get to pivot. Like if there's one name that's synonymous with the red pill, it's Rollo Tomasi, which is what like irks me that much more when people like do like Louis Theroux. Like that's how I knew it was like Louis Theroux's fucking documentary was bullshit. Like I never got a call. Yeah. Mike never got a call. You know, Ryan Stone never got. At least like call Roosh for fuck's sake. I don't know whoever.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Somebody. From who actually has some working knowledge, but he didn't want that. He wanted something that was more salacious, and he just wanted a dog and pony show. He just wanted to and so. But the thing is what that does is it then dissuades people who like men who are looking for real answers, and guys who are hurting, and guys who are looking in like guys like we talk about men's issues and men's suicide and men's loneliness and men's failure to launch and men being purposeless and men not having frontiers and men not having all this stuff, right? And clearly there's a need for it, so much so that they're concerned that the wrong element might be getting through to these guys, but they are there. And the red pill doesn't advertise. They have to find us. We don't go out and go, hey guys, we got some free candy for you, right?
Like Bentley.
We don't do that. They come to us. The thing is they won't come to us if people like Louis Theroux and there's many other people make the space look ridiculous and make the space look like it's toxic and make the space look like it's a one gigantic fucking grift. And I will tell you that I've been in this for 24 years now, and it is not. Can it be? Yes. Are there bad actors? Absolutely, they are. Are there people who should never be a representative of this space that are in this space? Oh yeah, I can name a lot of them. But you know what? It's also a space where guys like Mike has Reignite. He does immersions, and those guys actually see real progress. I do my Reignite group for the specific reason of reaching out to guys who are between like 45 and 65, because that's a prime demographic for male suicide. These are guys that are coming out of I'm not talking about the kids in adolescence. I'm talking about 45, 60, 70-year-old men who are coming out of horrific sexless marriages that they've been in for 10, 20, 25 years.
Damn.
And they're stranger in a strange land, and they are 9 times more likely to take their own lives as a result of that. And why? Because they have no network and they have no hope, and everything's nihilistic, and it's easier. They're faced with 2 questions, with an either or question. Like they can either rebuild themselves or they can delete themselves. And that's why I have my group, so that guys will take the gun out of their mouth and take the noose off their neck, man. But I don't get to do that if Louis Theroux says those guys are ridiculous. This is what they're really about.
They're adding
no. So I've used this before. I won't dig it up right now. I have a handwritten note from a woman who was like, it's still stained with her tears because she gave this to her husband to give to me because she just was too overcome. Like she couldn't talk to me, but she said to me in the note, she says, I want to thank you for giving me my sons back, because they were both in like these really horrible relationships. And I was really worried about their well-being. One of them was going to commit suicide because he lost his girlfriend or his fiance or something like that. It broke up with them and everything. And they were horrible people to begin with. They read my book and they become completely turned their lives around. And she was just like, I want to thank you for thank you for giving me my sons back. That was one. I mean, I've had guys like come up to me at conventions and say, man, I want to shake your hand. And they tears in their eyes and saying, my children have a father now because I had a plan to take my life and I didn't do it because I came upon your work. And now I realize what was now I've got accurate information. I understand what was going on. And I'm happy. Like, it's weird for me because I get so much hate. It's great when somebody like really benefits from my work, but they don't get to do that if I have to fight for the integrity of this space against idiots like Louis Theroux and Netflix. I don't get to do that when people make these, fictitious, shows like Adolescence. I don't get to do that when people are funding, incel, research to bolster the idea that incels are potential domestic terrorists, and I'm the one radicalizing them, right? I don't get to do that. I don't get to help people. Because they never find me as a result of that. And so that's, if there's a hill I'm going to die on, it's not going to be legislative, although as fun as that would be. The hill I'm going to die on is like standing up for the integrity of this space, because it really has integrity. And the problem is like, even if we don't get everything right, we ask questions that people just don't want to answer. Right? That's the main problem that most of these people have is not the reason they have to demonize us and make straw men out of us and ridicule the space is because, they're trying to retain power, obviously, but it's because we ask questions that they don't want to answer. It's the questions we ask. It's not, we don't have to write about stuff. It's the fact that we answered those questions.
I agree.
We'll come up to something like for instance, I keep using this. There's the interview between Chris Williamson and Andrew Huberman. And Andrew Huberman was talking about how it's a really good idea for men to take women out on a date and go like 3 different places, because then it sets this narrative and you have a story to tell. And it's like, you feel like you went on a trip rather than you went on a date kind of thing. And the first thing out of Chris Williamson's mouth, that fucking guy, man, he's like, yeah, those PUAs back in the day were weaponizing this.
What?
Why is it that when Mystery says the exact same thing as Andrew Huberman, that it's weaponization? And is it any less true? No.
Collective outrage.
But
it is.
If the guys in RSD say that that's the case and they make that observation, and Andrew Huberman says the same thing, they're the devil when they do it. But when Andrew Huberman does it, it's good science. Fuck you, Chris Williamson. This is what I'm talking about. So this is I would tell my own guys this. So this is a good idea, right? But because it comes out of my mouth, it's weaponized. But if it comes out of Andrew Huberman's mouth, it's just good science. That's what's hindering people from finding this space and finding the integrity that is in this space, because men need this. You asked me that question a little bit before, like what would you tell your 15-year-old son? How would you prepare them for high school and all this other stuff? Yeah. That is part of it right there. Is fighting that is knowing the battle and knowing what you're up against. And what you're up against is, people like Chris Williamson. What you're up against is people like Steve Bartlett, people who are they're not out for your own benefit. They're out for the narrative is what they're out for. And they're not trying to find solutions or find best practices. They're just there to raise awareness, right? Which is how they keep you in the churn marketing thing. But the one thing that everybody seems to be able to agree upon right now with respect to the manosphere and crisis of masculinity and all this stuff is that we need men to be leaders, and we need men to be good mentors, and we need men to be good fathers, and we need men to be good teachers, because we don't have enough of them in the school, obviously. And we need men to step up. We don't need these Andrew Tate guys or these Myron Gain guys or these Justin Waller guys. We need real men to stand up and teach our youth. And I'm like, okay, who?
You mean the men that they want?
Who?
Yeah, the men that they want.
What would they exactly? And you get down to particulars and you say, what would you want those? You can't name any names, but let's just say, for sake of argument, you can fictitious, like, idealized guy. What would you have him say that you would want the youth of the world to know? What influence would they have to do?
They would describe slaves. They would describe butlers.
Well, it's exactly, and I'll bring this.
How am I wrong?
I'll bring this full circle again.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'll bring this full circle. Remember, I told you about the pastor who was talking, the female pastor who was talking about how important sex was, and it's because men need sex, but they need not because of physical. They need sex because of communication, and they need sex because of acceptance and affirmation.
Crazy
and whatever, run down this list of all these things that women find important. Those are the same qualities that they would want that man to teach their kids, right? All of these the way to be a better human. Men are subhuman. until they can be more perfected. And the way they become more perfected is to be more feminine. And we need men, real men, who will teach young boys and men how to be more feminine, how to respect women, right? How to defer authority to women. And they will find nice little flowery ways and, ephemeral ways to sort of like characterize that.
Well, it's funny because
they don't want men. They want men who will espouse female characters.
You have women that write books now, How to Train Your Man Like a Dog, things like this. There's like 5 that I'm covering this later on the podcast. Here's the problem, though, is like women are infantilized all the time, even when they're the superior authority figure, all this happening. And they're writing books saying how to train your man like a dog. Well, we all know what happens when you mix dogs, peanut butter, and women. I'm not going to go into that right now. That's also an epidemic that's happening right now. There are also teachers like this. This is such a whole podcast that needs more to unpack than we'll ever have time for. But man, Rollo, this has been a crazy journey talking with you about all this. This, matter of fact, this needs to be talked about. This shouldn't be the only space and podcast that we discuss the epidemic of teachers sleeping with students. I think that this should happen more often. So.
And the algorithm will go, get down. What are you trying to do? Get off of here. Get off of my fucking
demonetize. Demonetize.
They want to demonetize you. They'll just be invisible. You'll think you're monetized. But you won't be monetized.
They'll lead you to believe so. Yeah.
You haven't demonetized me yet. Yeah, but what's your but nobody why am I only getting 8 views on this?
As they're stigmatizing you even more in your content. So
that's another thing you're fighting against. All right, guys. Thank you very much.
All right, Rollo. Good to have you.
Thank you very much, Rollo. It was nice. It was a pleasure talking to you. Nice meeting you.
See you next time. Thanks, brother.
Take care, man. Yep. Yeah, that was one hell of a roller coaster, man. We got some time. We got about 6 minutes left. Yeah, I don't know what to say, Vic. I was actually honestly trying to find answers, but at the same time, I was realizing that these answers are going to be more hard to come by than anything else because women aren't going to police themselves. And I realized that in the middle of the podcast, and I was like, their nature, it's almost like a lot of feminist men like Brian Shapiro are allowing this to happen. If you kind of, it's almost like the Brian Shapiros of the world have been weaponized to allow this to happen and then say, I'll defend you, my lady, as they're wearing a mushroom cap hat in that one picture he's wearing. We'll get into that later. But it's insane. As they're stigmatizing men to try to self-improve and to try to fight this, it's almost like an uphill battle. I don't know what the answer is for this epidemic, but I do know one thing. We need to talk about this, bring more awareness on this. And he's right. I think that it'll escalate a whole lot.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I remember back in the 90s. Remember the biggest case? It was that lady, Mary Kay Letourneau, and she had an affair with her student and then ended up getting pregnant by him.
They got back together again.
She passed away, but before she passed away, they got back together. Like they had a whole relationship. And but that was a big story back in the 90s. That was like the biggest known case. Now it's happening so often that it's not even like, it's just people kind of just brush it off because it's like, oh, whatever. But it absolutely is something that we need to talk about because it's not right. Even if the boy does like it or whatever, of course, a young teenager's going to like it because he has all these hormones. But that doesn't mean
what if the daughter likes it though, Vic? What if the shoe was on? What if she liked it? Oh, that shit's not going to fly now. Crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If the woman came on to the man, then obviously, he groomed her. She doesn't know what she's doing. But if the boy likes it, it's like, well, he liked it, so big deal. But we need to hold these standards the same. And I agree with Rollo that we need to make harsher enforcements for women to do this. But I also do think we need some kind of social stigma to go as well. If we could socially stigmatize men to the point where for a while men were like afraid of getting Me Too and didn't even want to approach women, I think we could do the same, against women. And I also think we need strong, good men to lead as well.
I think a point that Rollo hit when I was like, oh, that's a revelation right there, is making things consistent, firm, fair, and consistent across the board, i.e. like mandated sentencing time, or at least a unilateral time of like sentencing where, okay, it's 15 years for this guy. On average, it's 15 years for her too. No leniency. We're not cutting corners because you did this with your hair and because, oh, you're too pretty to be in prison. Nonsense. You know what? You're still a PDF aisle, just like he is. Same shit goes for you, him, and her. That's why I asked Roldo the question. I said, well, if we're talking about sentencing and capital punishment for men, would you agree that teachers should be executed as well too? He said yes. His logic was at least consistent. I had to ask him this. So it's like, not that I'm debating Roldo, but I just wanted to see where his frame of reference was, how he's going to frame his answers. But I mean, I'm pretty pleased with the podcast. I did want to bring a banger of a guest out here for you guys, so that way we can talk about this issue, because I noticed that Rollo was firing back and he was also keeping a log of these incidents happening. I was like, who would be more perfect than this guy who was actually tracking all this? Then Rollo Tomas.
Yeah, no, I agree. What did he say? 79, 2024, 91 in 2025, and 19 so far in 2026.
91. That is insane. This is ramping up, and we're already that into this part of the year. This is insane. Like, I'll ask you, Vic, how do you think we can slow this down, or is there even a solution that we could foresee in the future?
Honestly, yeah, I think we do have to punish the women harsher with the laws that we have, the statutory grape laws. But I also think we need social stigmatizing, like we need to make people more socially aware and lead and be very clear and be like, no, this is not okay. We can't keep just throwing it back and saying, well, the kid liked it. It's like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You wouldn't hold that same standard for a young girl if she liked it. We need to do the same with those, because again, it's like this kid, he could get the teacher pregnant and he's going to be on the hook for this kid. He's going to be financially responsible when he turns 18. He's also, what kind of father is he going to be at that young age? It's the same thing that the feminists would say with 11 or 10-year-old girl. They always bring that up when they're talking about abortions. Well, what about the young boys, like, are they ready to be fathers yet? And if we just keep brushing it off because the kid enjoys it, it's like, it's not good for the young kid either.
Yeah, and like I showed the little clip, I know we got probably like a minute left, but here's the thing though, is like I brought up the web page of what's happening in my state. There was that kid who was raped at 14 by a teacher, and then come to find out, as soon as he turned 21, his paychecks were being garnished and he owes back child support of $15,000. The kid was the victim in this case, but now at 14, he's supposed to be a father and pay for, like, I don't understand the logic of this, but you'll never see the inverse of this, of a woman paying a guy. Like that would blow my mind if that ever happened. I'd be like, well, that's equal at least. But what's happening is they're turning males into the perpetrators when they're really the victims, and they're paying for it in the end when they got taken advantage of as teachers, financially, fiscally, time they're losing. Like, this is insane.
I completely agree. 100%, 100%.
Any final parting words that you have for the audience? Because this is not only a banger of an episode, but I wanted this to be kind of like a thought-provoking episode, and I wanted to become solution-oriented in my approach, not just delving into people's stories of their lives and discovering who this person is because they're a cool person we bring on the podcast, but I also wanted to, like the namesake woke autopsy, is to attack the woke agenda and kind of dissect it a little bit. And I think Rollo was the first person that I was thinking about when it came to this issue. I think it was a good issue. But anyways, I loved having you aboard this episode. The next episode is going to be a banger as usual. I'll tell you who the next guest is. It's just going to be better and better as we move forward. But yeah, man, this was a good episode. Turned out exactly how I wanted it to be, and I brought on the perfect guest for the subject. So
yeah, no, I agree. Rollo was a great guest. Like, as you said, the perfect person to talk about this subject. He's actually keeping track, calling it out, which I think more people should be. And I think we need to get this trend rolling of calling it out more and not letting it slide anymore if we want things to improve. So another great guest, another great podcast. I hope everybody watching enjoyed that, because I had fun. Marte had fun. Thank you again, Marte.
If you guys are over on Vic's channel, let me just do some grift work real quick. My channel's kind of dry in super chats because I recently got monetized. So you guys, if you guys want to subscribe to my channel, I'm hosting a Fears to Fathom series where I'm tackling topics that are going to traumatize me and borderline walking TOS tightropes to discuss issues that nobody else is talking about, from religion that worships booties to bug chasers that I covered today, which is gross. And then my next topic that I want to discuss too is involuntary self-deletions that are happening in society. Nobody wants to talk about that. But yeah, I've got a very interesting selection of series that I'm going to talk about that are very dark and morbid. There's also horror movies. And the reason why South Park isn't popping is because real life is becoming worse than anybody could ever write in fiction. And that's why I cover on my Fears to Fathom series. So yeah.
Hell yeah. Yeah. And I implore you guys, go to Marte's channel as well. Show him some love because he is monetized again. So throw some shekels his way. You know, Marte is a fantastic host.
My EBT card is running dry, and the chicken bowl is at one drumstick now. I do love watermelon too, just letting you know. I have a debate with Circa next week because he kind of canceled on me somehow, maybe stage fright. I don't know. But anyway, Circa, if you're hearing this, your ass is going to be whooped next week. I look forward to destroying the shit out of you logically in an argument. I wish you good luck because you're going to need it, Circa. You heard it here first. So.
Good luck, Circa. I'm looking forward to watching it and reviewing it.
All right, guys, I'm out. It's been another podcast. I got to go because I had a hard out 3 minutes ago. So I know Vic did too. Yeah. But yeah, I'll talk to you guys later. Next time, I'll let you guys know when I announce it. Christ is God. Peace out.
Christ is God. See you later.